All right, we're going to go ahead and get started. Today is Thursday. Let me turn my mic on. Today is Thursday, September the 5th, 2024. It's 9 a.m. Commission Secretary, please call roll. Here. Here.
Here. Here.
Here.
Here.
Great. Well, welcome everyone. Thank you for being here. As we move forward with our business today, I have a friendly reminder for all that we are live streaming our open meetings for the public to view. If you are speaking, please make sure you speak into a microphone. I should have taken that same advice a few minutes ago, and that the microphone is on so viewers may hear what's being said. For viewers watching online, we encourage you to subscribe to MoDOT's YouTube channel at MoDOT Video for access to these meetings and more. We're going to start our meeting today with a brief safety emphasis. Lauren McKean, Assistant District Engineer, is going to tell us what we need to do in case of an emergency today. Welcome.
Welcome. Thank you. So good morning, Chairman Boatwright, Commissioners, Interim Director Hassinger, and Secretary Harlan. Welcome to Springfield. It is always nice to host the commission in the Southwest District on another beautiful day in the Ozarks. Since safety is MoDOT's top value and priority, I have a few safety reminders this morning. In the event of a fire, everyone will exit out a door nearest to them and then head south out of the building. Once out of the building, head east towards the front in front of Houlihan's, where we will congregate in the parking lot there. This parking lot is a little challenging. There's a lot of fire entrances, so we may have to move from that spot, but we will do it as a group. After exit, in case there is a small fire here in the conference room, there's a fire extinguisher located inside of the podium. I have asked Sarah Kleinschmidt to retrieve and use the fire extinguisher if needed. In the event of severe weather, which is not forecasted today, but this is Missouri, so you never know, everyone should exit the room through the rear doors, turn right, and right again in the hallway, and make your way to the Ann McCluster room. There we will shelter in place until the all clear is given. If we must evacuate this room, please take a moment to make note of who you are sitting next to and make sure that upon your arrival to the designated safe location that your neighbor has arrived safely too. If there is a medical emergency, most people in this room are certified in CPR. Kim Hickey will call 911 and direct the emergency responders to our location at 2431 North Glenstone Avenue. Eric Schrader has volunteered to administer CPR, and Becky Almaroth will assist him if necessary. There is an AED located in the podium, and I will retrieve the AED in the event of a medical emergency. That concludes today's Safety Minute. Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Next, I'd like to recognize our special guests. We've got lots of special guests out in the audience today, but a few that I just mentioned. Representative Bill Owen, thank you for being here, sir. From the U.S. Senator's office, from the U.S. Senator's office, we have Aaron Engelmeyer from Senator Hawley's office. Thank you for being here. Jared Taylor from Congressman Burleson's office. Thank you for being here, Jared. And we have the mayor of Springfield, Ken. Great to see you, Ken McClure. So thank you for being here. Appreciate you making time to come this morning. We had a few other legislators that were able to make this morning coffee with the commission. So we certainly enjoyed that interaction and that opportunity a few minutes ago. Next, I'd like to review a few procedural items, public comment period. I want to remind everybody that we have a public comment period, and we're pleased to offer this to every Missourian who wants to come before the commission to address an issue of concern. Any of you that would like to address the commission, please sign up by 9:30 a.m. A reminder that you will have 5 minutes for public comment or 10 minutes per subject. Next, abstentions. Next, I'll review our abstention process. There are commissioners that, because of land ownership or business interest or lawyers, may represent clients that may either have some relationship to a matter coming before the commission and may have a potential or actual conflict of interest to be considered or voted upon. The commission member will indicate if he or she chooses to abstain from the voting or recuse him or herself from participating in the discussion of the agenda item. If an agenda item is divisible by contract, call, project, or like, a commissioner may specify that particular matter and still vote on the remainder of the agenda item. All of this information is provided to the commission secretary by letter in advance of the meeting. The commission secretary will duly indicate abstentions or recusals accordingly in the minutes of the meeting. Madam Secretary, have the necessary letters been prepared? All right, thank you. Okay, first item is consideration of the regular meeting minutes on August the 7th, 2024, and special meetings on August the 6th, 2024, and August the 13th, 2024. Does anybody have any corrections or additions? Seeing none, do we have a motion and a second for approval of the minutes?
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Minutes are approved. Next item is consideration of items on the consent agenda. Does anybody have anything that they need to remove for discussion later or abstain from in the consent agenda? Seeing none, do we have a motion and a second for approval?
So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. At this time, two items were just passed in the consent agenda that I want to bring kind of to the top of the pile and go ahead and talk about and address. We have two resolutions that were passed. One is expressing appreciation to Patrick McKenna for his achievements and accomplishments as director of MoDOT. So Patrick, we'd love to, I hate to make you get up and walk across the room, but we'd love to have the opportunity to get a photo with you with the resolution. And we also have, where's Rich in the room? Oh, there's Rich. Gosh. Rich, I don't know what to say. You know, it's embarrassing sometimes to be me. But we also want to thank you, Rich, for your 50 years of service to the department and also honor you with the resolution. So if you two guys, we're going to take a picture right over here, and I'm going to grab these resolutions and gifts. Well, thank you for that opportunity to honor those two. They have both have been a really big part of where we are today. So thank you for allowing us to take time to honor them. Next, we're going to move on to committee and board reports. I serve on the audit committee along with Commissioner Slay and Commissioner Baker. Today, Commissioner Slay will give us a report.
There is no audit report for this month. The next audit committee meeting will be in November.
Thank you, Commissioner Slay. All commissioners are members of the Legislative Committee, and the Commission Chair and Vice Chair serve as co-chairs of the Legislative Committee. Today, Commissioner Erdman will give our report.
Well, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good morning, everyone. I know everyone's as excited as I am to start planning for the next legislative session. Well, this morning I would like to introduce MoDOT's proposed 2025 legislative agenda. But before I begin, I just feel like I need to recap the historic investment and commitment the General Assembly has made to transportation in the recently ended session of 2024. These include continued funding for expanding and rebuilding I-70 across the state from Blue Springs to Wentzville, $577.5 million available for systematic improvements along I-44 that's so important here in southern Missouri, $100 million in general revenue for low volume and minor routes, and $49 million in general revenue for safety improvements at railroad grade crossings. These represent a long string now of historic investment made by the General Assembly and with the support of the governor in our state's infrastructure. And I'm happy to report the commission has already plans in place for spending the money. We're going to deliver, and we appreciate the support we've received. Our work, however, is not complete. During the 2025 legislative session, we must continue to make safety our top priority. Therefore, we will continue to promote the safer access for everyone on the roadways, the safer recommendations. This report outlines 17 legislative countermeasures that have been identified by the National Safety Council and advocates for highway and auto safety. These proposals will allow MoDOT and safety advocates from across the state the opportunity to partner with public policymakers to reduce automotive accidents and eliminate traffic fatalities in Missouri. This report has targeted 4 areas of safety that can be improved or resolved by changing current state statutes. These areas are titled Safer for Our Children, Safer for Our Teens, Safer for Our Highway Workers, and Safer for You. Some of the safer recommendations from these national associations range from strengthening the state's current graduated driver's license requirements, implementing a booster seat law, passing a law to make it a primary offense if you don't wear a safety belt when operating a motor vehicle. Updated copies of this safer document report can be found at the registration desk as you came in this morning. We welcome you to take one. A new proposal that we will introduce this year and seek support for by the department is associated with the huge issue of societal intrusion upon our rights of way by homeless people and by the trash that sometimes is associated with that, and the trash that comes from dump trucks that don't properly secure their loads. We must approach this problem from several angles to help keep our state and its roadways beautiful and appropriately maintained. Trash along Missouri roadways is a concern for the traveling public, lawmakers, and road users alike. One of the top customer complaints the department receives daily is the need to pick up and remove trash along roadways. This trash problem is mostly generated from unsecured loads by commercial and non-commercial haulers to simply individuals driving down the highway who throw discarded waste materials from their cars. Trash can be defined as a simple piece of paper, a styrofoam cup, or as much as furniture left on the shoulder of a busy highway. Now, as MoDOT's workforce has experienced a decline in labor hours due to a decrease in hiring additional employees, our crews have had to focus their efforts on safety-related matters, such as filling potholes, replacing old and worn-out road signs. One case in point On June 11th, June 13th, and again on June 18th, local and state law enforcement agencies conducted a saturation patrol on load securement in the Kansas City region. This dedicated effort focused on large haulers of trash who do not secure their loads, which results in trash and waste materials blowing out of their trucks onto our state's highways. During this time, 36 citations or warnings were issued to commercial drivers related to not securing their loads properly in violation of state law. MoDOT cannot take on this task alone. While there are laws for addressing trash violations, there must be other practices considered as well to combat the issue. The following is a threefold approach that looks to address roadside litter at its source and provide additional funds to remedy these problems. First, trash hauler fees, where we would add additional fees per ton on the trash moved or deposited through transfer stations or landfills. These funds collected then could be used by MoDOT to help pay contractors to remediate the trash left behind from their unlawful hauling of that trash. Points against licenses for failure to secure a load. Blowing debris from trucks or trash haulers is a major contributor to roadside litter. This is despite state law requiring that these loads be secured. To hold those who choose not to secure their loads accountable, this proposal would levy points against their license when they are found to be in violation of the law. And finally, remove barriers to litter enforcement. Currently, those who are stopped or cited for littering must be taken into custody and fingerprinted. This process can be streamlined by removing the requirement for fingerprinting, leading to fewer warnings being issued and more impactful enforcement. Recently in Kansas City, the problem became such an issue that KMBC Channel 9 did a full investigative report on this. And I want to applaud them for their investigative journalism, where they identified trash haulers who were unlawfully unsecuring their loads, causing enormous trash problems, which we've talked about today. These remedies that we're talking about come from that investigation and from our experience. So in closing, the department is willing to provide additional information and data to any elected officials hoping to advance good transportation legislation. However, these are just a few examples of what MoDOT hopes to advance during the 2025 session. The department is seeking Commission's consensus on pursuing these legislative proposals with the understanding these initiatives will be shared with the next governor and will be considered as part of a legislative agenda for 2025. Mr. Chairman, this ends my report, and thank you for your time.
Thank you, Commissioner Erdman. Commissioner Smith serves as president of MTFC, and Commissioners Erdman and Baker are board members. Today, Commissioner Smith will provide the report.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I do not have a report this month. The next MTFC meeting is scheduled for October. So have a
Thank you.
report then. Thank you.
Commissioners Erdman, Hegeman, and I serve on the Emperor's Board. Today, Commissioner Erdman will provide the report.
Thank you, and likewise, no report this month. The Emperor's Board will meet on September 17th, and we'll have a report in October.
Great. Next, I will give the Missouri Coalition for Roadway Safety Executive Committee report. On Saturday, August the 24th, more than 250 Missouri law enforcement officers joined together to participate in Mothers Against Drunk Driving Saturation Saturday campaign. This annual event brings additional awareness to impaired driving by saturating Missouri's roadways with officers seeking to do one thing: get impaired drivers off the roadways. While the final numbers are still being reported, more than 100 DWI arrests have already been reported for this one evening of work. The Missouri Coalition for Roadway Safety is grateful for the dedication of these officers, and we look forward to a day when such an event will result in 0 DWI arrests. In another effort to combat impaired driving, the coalition recently partnered with the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration to host an impaired driving leadership summit in Jefferson City. This summit brought together key partners from across the state to discuss steps Missouri can take to move forward in preventing impaired driving throughout the state. The summit yielded several desired outcomes, which the group will collectively pursue over the course of the next year, including efforts in prevention, public policy, enforcement, and treatment programs. As of Friday, August the 30th, there have been 584 traffic fatalities in Missouri this year. This is 32 fewer fatalities than the same time period last year, a 5% decrease. In closing, we ask everybody to buckle up, phone down, and drive sober. This concludes my report. The next item is the Director's Search Committee, which is made up of all members of the commission, and today I will provide the report. Yesterday, we completed the draft job description and the job posting after receiving more than 50 comments from the Planning Commission, industrial partners, employees, and stakeholders throughout Missouri. For anybody that took the time to put together those comments, thank you. It was extremely helpful and putting together the job posting and the job description. So thank you for the feedback and taking time to do that. Starting tomorrow, we will be posting on various websites to begin our nationwide search. We expect to receive applications through the 27th of September and to select a short list of candidates to interview sometime in October. As this progresses, we'll keep you informed, but it's an exciting time to be in transportation in the state of Missouri, and I'm sure that we'll have some very qualified folks jump in and put their name in the hat for this extremely important position. So, moving on to the next item on the agenda is MoDOT Director's Report. Ed?
Good morning. So first of all, I just want to thank the commission. You know, I'm truly humbled that you have asked me to take on this role. And I will work every day to earn the trust you put in me to do this. And the goal of being seamless and moving seamlessly through transition, we're working hard to do that every day. Secondly, I just want to say that on behalf of Team MoDOT, we all owe a great debt of gratitude to Director McKenna. You know, his leadership, his mentorship, his friendship has been great over the last several years and has really moved us forward as a department. So on behalf of the entire team, Patrick, thank you. So we had a lot going on in the department over the last month since we last met. Last week, Missouri and Kansas Department of Transportation hosted the annual Mid-America Association of State Highway and Transportation Officials, better known as MASTO, in Kansas City. We had over 900 people, transportation professionals from all over the Midwest. It was truly a really joyous 3 days. We got together with our colleagues, shared war stories, talked about how we would improve what we were doing. It was an honor to be one of the co-hosts of that meeting. During the opening session, you see some of the pomp and circumstance, but it was really cool to see the Missouri State Highway Patrol, the Kansas State Highway Patrol come and do the color guard. And you just kind of, MoDOT are really outstanding individuals, but one of the people that led the Pledge of Allegiance is one of our district traffic specialists, Melissa Roberts. And she has a bio that would just blow you away, but I'm going to give you just a few pieces of that. She's in the United States Army Reserve. She's a staff sergeant with the 418th Civil Affairs Battalion. And she's received so many military honors during her service. And this is her other job besides her day job at MoDOT. But she received the Soldier of the Year twice. NCO Officer of the Year for the reserves. And I think it just shows you the quality of people that we have in this department.
No question.
She was the one that got up in front of the crowd and led the Pledge of Allegiance. So just another highlight of the event. Our keynote speaker was a gentleman from right down here in Rogersville who talked about crazy ideas and using innovation to address complex issues. And he was also very entertaining. Gave lot to think about. And then we had a lot of topics that we talked about from all of our different states, but the MoDOT team stepped up and we had several presentations. Probably one of the ones that Commissioner Erdman just talked about, our Kansas City district has taken this innovative approach to homelessness and what we're doing in that arena. So Chris and our private partners presented to all the other states, and there was huge interest in that from other states because they're dealing with the exact same things we are. We talked about making the I-70 environmental process go faster. Our team was part of that. We talked about our safety design build project in St. Louis and our arterial focus safer roads in St. Louis. So we had a lot of experts from MoDOT talking to our counterparts across the state, and that's just or across the Midwest, and that's just great to see. We also had a little fun while we were there. We kind of highlighted that football team that plays in Kansas City. So you might know that one. And our closing speaker was actually Dan Mears. And Dan Mears, if you don't know him, he's the KC Wolf. So if you've ever seen Dan present, he gives a really inspirational presentation. And then we ended the conference with the KC Rumble drumline playing us out. And then we had the Lombardi Trophy in the lobby so people could see that. And we kind of kidded some of our friends across the Midwest, say, well, you may never see one of these. So we thought we'd bring it so you could see what one of these looked like. So that was kind of a hit, and everybody had a great time. We had 15 of our team that volunteered to make this thing run. Some of them are actually the same people you see that make this operation run. But 15 volunteers, other than their day job, working to make that run smoothly. And I just have to call out a couple. You know, Jay Wunderlich was our kind of person that put together a program and put together a great program. So Jay's always in the back of the room. But and then the heart and soul of what we did was led by Dana Kaiser. Dana's in our office. She's the sergeant at arms and makes sure everything runs. And so just a shout out to Dana on making a successful conference. Also, a couple weeks ago, we had the update from MCTI, and that's our Missouri Center for Transportation Innovations. That's something we launched several years ago. We do a yearly update to make sure that that's on track, but it's a partnership to do research and innovation between MoDOT, the university system, all 4 state-sponsored university systems, federal highway, and we began that in 2019, and the vision was to establish Missouri as a showcase and clearinghouse for safe, accessible, sustainable, and resilient transportation, and to provide research that is practical and implementable. You know, we're not trying to cure cancer. We're trying to get stuff done that people can use and actually put into practice. And we also wanted them to grow, right? So they started with seed money from MoDOT, and the idea is that they would leverage that funding and become a transportation center of excellence right here in Missouri. Because prior to that, a lot of our research dollars were going other places. We were paying people in Alabama and North Carolina to do research about what's going on in Missouri. And so I think this has been a great success. We've started, we're making progress, and I wanted to show a couple just real quick graphs that show the progress that we're making on that. But the project growth rate is really currently about a 1-to-2 ratio. The MCTI secured about 84 projects totaling $15 million. And you can see on the slide that to date, MCI has secured 73% of the total MoDOT funding for research. And what you can just see on the graphs is that it's growing. And I think that's important. The MoDOT research that's being done by them is growing, but also the money that they are leveraging from other places is growing. And you can see the blue is the percentage of what they're doing here in Missouri on the pie charts. And so I think that partnership is starting to really hit its stride. Their goal long term is to do about $10 million of research annually. And I think they're thinking about actually revising that goal. We're almost to that. And we're just proud to be a partner with MCTI. Also, MoDOT this year hosted the Highway Gardens at the Missouri State Fair. So we had MoDOT team members from all of our 7 districts in our central office working the 10 days of the fair, and we greeted approximately 15,000 fairgoers. We shared our safety message. We had displays on buckle up, phone down to encourage seatbelt use and putting their phones down when driving. We had some interactive impaired driving activities, had a lot of giveaways on not only safety, but also one of our priorities on human trafficking in Missouri. So we had an opportunity to reach people on that. We drew a lot of attention to where we are with our historic investment on I-70. That was pretty popular. A lot of people were interested in seeing what's going on with I-70 and where we're at. And then we also shared materials with fairgoers to remind them about the key safety messages. We had temporary tattoos that people could put on. We had hacky sacks, and I'm thinking, wow, hacky sacks are back. You know, I mean, there's a blast from the past for me anyway. And then we had things that kids could do, educational things. And then we asked the kids to put stickers on a map from where they were from. And when we got done, the map of Missouri was covered with stickers from people from all over the state. So we know that we reached out and we actually connected with a lot of folks from around the entire state. And of course, the Highway Gardens, if you haven't been there, is kind of a nice place to go. It's air conditioned and it's got indoor bathrooms, but also it's just a beautiful place that MoDOT maintains that people can go and kind of take a little break from the hubbub of the fair, and we get an opportunity to share our messages on safety and some of the things that MoDOT's doing. So huge effort by the entire team from all across the state. Mr. Chairman, that concludes my report.
Thank you. Any discussion?
Yeah, let me begin by just echoing Ed's comments in gratitude to Patrick McKenna. We'll have the chance here in our closing comments maybe to say more, but I want to echo those comments because, as I mentioned down in Poplar Bluff, Director McKenna has been a transformational figure in Missouri history, truly transformational. And Missouri is a better place for this native son of New Hampshire to have spent 8 years of his career. And thank you. And Ed, let me thank you for stepping up. Big shoes to fill, but we're sure grateful you're filling them. We've been entrusted with a lot of money, and we don't want to miss a beat. And we know you're the man to make sure that happens, and we are very grateful to you. Let me call out again the good work of MCTI. Very important work. You want your state to be a center of innovation because it spurs all kinds of development, all kinds of upstarts, all kinds of entrepreneurial activity. But to be a center of innovation, you have to have research, basic research. And MCTI is doing that in the very important area of transportation innovation. So we're very grateful for that research. It's essential to Missouri's future, and we want to keep up the good work. So thank you to both Patrick and you, and we appreciate the good work of MCTI.
Thank you, Vice Chairman. I'm not going to go too deep into this, but when we talk about MCTI and that ability that we have right here within the state, you know, we have a tremendous amount of resource and intelligence right here within our universities that we have not tapped into historically. And you know, Missouri, when you start thinking about the history of the state, we've led in a lot of different avenues, and this one is one that we can lead at and include the leader that we are when it comes to investment and back into our infrastructure that we're currently going through right now. So, you know, if you look at the short term, it may seem like, well, you know, Missouri's really stepping up now. Well, if you look over the history of the state, Missouri was our first interstate in this country was built right here in Missouri. So this is nothing new to Missouri, but it's great to see this trend of leadership continue on and for the opportunities that we currently have because of it. So we're extremely blessed. Usually I steal the thunder from our district engineer on the next topic. So we're going to move on into the public presentations. Instead of doing that today, I'm going to let Stacy Reese, our district engineer for the Southeast, introduce our guests and instead of stealing her thunder. So Stacy, the floor is yours.
All right, good morning. Chairman, Commission, Interim Director, I would be happy to introduce Matt Morrow, President of the Springfield Area Chamber of Commerce, and Sarah Fields, Executive Director of the Ozarks Transportation Organization, to talk about Springfield winning together.
Thank you, Stacy, and thank you for the opportunity to address the commission today. Grateful for the partnership that has proven so fruitful and successful over the years, and that continues to, I think, create meaningful opportunities for us in the years ahead as well. In preparing for some brief remarks today, one of the things that as Sarah Fields and I and our teams were working together, we were inspired by what many of us have been watching were the Olympics over the course of the last several weeks, and the keen observation that any great success takes a whole team of people in whatever field it is. And as we think about transportation and we think about the transportation infrastructure network in our state and what that leads to, what it protects us from, and what it provides for us in terms of opportunity, it's a tremendous team effort. We think of everything from certainly our governor, legislators like Representative Bill Owen and others, to local leaders like our mayor who is here today, City Manager of Republic, Dave Cameron, and others who are here with us throughout the region. And of course, MoDOT and the commission and your tremendous leadership as well. Director McKenna, it's been great to partner with you. I'm so thankful for the partnership that we've had over the years, and grateful for the chance to continue on that work ahead. So today I'll be speaking just a little bit about some of the background and overview of our region, of our growth. We do work together here. It's part of our DNA. To collaborate and to try to speak with one voice as a region. And there are many partners through this. And you'll hear some of those referenced today, but not nearly all of them, as we simply don't have that kind of time. I'll move. Did I go the wrong way? I think I did. There we go. Okay. So I'll start off with a little bit of an overview of our economy and some of the factors that affect transportation planning, and then Sarah will take it from there to walk through some of the projects. And we think there's a lot of alignment between multiple organizations, but specifically MoDOT and the Chamber and OTO, the different pieces of the puzzle that we each bring to it. Obviously, the goal for MoDOT is to keep a world-class transportation system that is safe, innovative, reliable, and dedicated to prosperous Missouri. As a Chamber of Commerce, we're focused on supporting the economic health of the region, and the Ozarks Transportation Organization is all about providing that collaborative decision-making work to support an excellent transportation system in our region. And I think about even the conversations that we were hearing earlier about investments in things that provide the top priority, which is a safe transportation network. And the decisions that you make to make sure that today's transportation network and tomorrow's transportation network are safe for those who will travel are, one, obviously accomplishing that particular goal of safety. But the other thing they're doing is they're having ancillary significant benefits and impacts on our economic growth, on our ability to thrive as a region and as a state. I want to talk just a little bit about some of that with you today too. Just a quick overview of our area, just for those who might not be as familiar with the Springfield region. Several key recognizable brands are headquartered or founded here in Springfield, including Bass Pro Shops, O'Reilly, Forbes Mazars, Paul Mueller Company, Prime, SRC, Jack Henry Associates, and national brands that you may have heard of have a significant footprint here as well, including Enersys, Vital Farms, French's McCormick Food Company, John Deere Reman, Kraft Heinz, 3M, and Amazon, just to name a few. But these are some of the significant footprints. Many of these have made the decision to locate here or to expand in this region just in the last few years. And a big part of that is our location and our ability to have access to their supply chains and to their customer bases throughout the country, largely based on a strong transportation network and system. We also have some assets in our area that we leverage pretty heavily when competing for those kinds of economic development projects. One of those is our recent plaster manufacturing center that is now established as a part of the Ozarks Technical Community College. Here, it's a 120,000 square foot, $40 million facility, really dedicated to advanced manufacturing education, partnering specifically with employers to help with those higher tech advanced manufacturing roles. You see some of those listed here on the screen. But essentially what that allows us to do in terms of competing for projects is it allows us to compete for a more advanced level of manufacturing companies that have higher skill needs in their jobs and their workforce. Those are higher paying jobs. It's really important that we're able to do that for a number of reasons. One, there simply aren't as many people to go around as there once were. And so investments in productivity and robotics, machinery, and technology all have really helped to do a couple of things. One, increase productivity for the companies, and also be able to do it with fewer people, but fewer people who have higher wage and higher skilled jobs. So everybody wins in that scenario. We have had a number of business expansions just in the last couple of years, just to name a few. And you'll see here in the picture our mayor and one of our county commissioners, as well as a local business person here, helping to break ground on Cold Zone, which is a cold food storage facility here, $50 million investment in our area. Youngstown Glove Company Manufacturing, Paul Mueller has a significant expansion just recently announced. Show Me Fabrication, Ozarks Coca-Cola and Dr. Pepper Bottling Company, a $28 million expansion as well. As we mentioned, Intersys, all of those are kind of in that industrial space, but of course we wouldn't want to not mention the fact that we are home to the first Buc-ee's in Missouri as well, which arrived here not that long ago also. So just a quick overview of our labor shed. This 10-county region is what we often refer to as SREP, the Springfield Regional Economic Partnership. But our labor shed is a 2-hour labor shed outside of the city of Springfield. People commute that far in and out, and it spreads even beyond these 10 counties. In fact, 51% of our workforce comes from outside the city limits here in Springfield. And so significant commuter patterns as well. That's really important, obviously, for the transportation network. Our largest sectors of our economy are listed there. What you will see as you look at that, particularly is that really strong healthcare presence and education presence means that we tend to be pretty insulated from significant highs and lows, economically speaking, which helps us to be able to provide some certainty to companies as they consider where they're going to locate as well. This is a look at our population growth statewide. I just want to hit a few of these items. This is by metro area. And one of the things I just want to highlight is that there is significant growth happening in the Springfield metro and in this region of the state. You'll see that on a percentage basis over that 4-year period of 2020 to 23, no place in the state is growing as fast as the Springfield metro, both in percentage and actually in the number of people added. So Kansas City is next, but obviously Kansas City is much larger than Springfield. We're adding people at a faster pace than any other part of the state. And a lot of that is because of the fact that there's a strong infrastructure here for that growth to happen. There are other assets that are helping making that happen as well. But it's really important, obviously, for future planning to be thinking about that very thing. And then we try to drill down a little bit further. So for us, it's not just adding people to the region, it's also about adding workforce. And so the graph on the right is prime working age, ages 25 to 64. You'll see the fastest growing region of the state in workforce is the Springfield region, growing at about 3.5% over that 4-year period, which of course predates COVID. So we take that dip out and account for it that way. And then one of the things we're really proud of is our significant growth in young workforce. So ages 25 to 34, we're outpacing the rest of the state significantly in that regard as well. What we think that means is that 1, we're adding people, 2, we're adding people who are working, and 3, we're adding young people who are working, which means that as you project out and think about the long-term needs of the state, this is pretty significant to keep an eye on. Now, as fast as our population is growing and as proud as we are of that, that is simply not fast enough for the demand of job creation that's happening. So while we have about a 3.5% growth of people over that period of time, over the same period of time, we're adding jobs at a rate that's about twice as fast. So we like that. Obviously, we like seeing that job creation happen, but we have significant workforce shortages. We think when you take all of that together, we can anticipate that growth will continue to be happening here in a really robust way for quite some time because the jobs are there. More jobs than we have people. The people we're adding are mostly younger, and it's continuing to fill those needs. This just gives you a little bit of an overview of where some of that growth is happening. Again, our largest sectors of our economy are actually education and health services, but this is where the growth has been happening over the last 4 years. And you see it compared to statewide and nationally. Our total growth is significant in terms of new job creation, and those jobs are happening significantly in manufacturing, construction, education and health services, trade, transport, and utilities, really mostly across the board. with a couple of small exceptions there. But generally speaking, we're seeing really robust job growth. So next up, I think that hopefully lays a little bit of the groundwork for where Sarah can take us next, which is to say, well, what does that mean for our transportation network, for the investments you've made in the past and the investments that are coming ahead, and how we can best partner and support that. So Sarah, welcome.
Thank you, Matt. Good morning, Commission. Thank you for having us. So with Matt laying the framework behind the growth and why our decisions have to be smart, we all know there's not enough money, but with growing rapidly, we have to make smart decisions in the projects that are prioritized. So we appreciate you giving us that responsibility. So because we take it seriously, we use data sources, not feelings, but real data. And MoDOT provides us with a lot of that data. You guys have, the department has some of the best data in the nation. I talk to my counterparts from other states, and they don't have the opportunity to have that kind of data that we have. So we really appreciate it and know that that's an investment, of course. So when we prioritize for projects for MoDOT, we are, of course, most interested in safety first and congestion second. And we have a 100-point scale that we use that data and prioritize those projects. Safety has the most weight of anything. And then we start looking at congestion because, as we have all seen on I-44, once you have congestion, you have safety problems. So they are very, very much related. And then we try to do other things that give us bonus, right? If we have a poor bridge condition, then, we can get more out of our investment improving that bridge and so on and so forth. So there's a lot of pieces of that puzzle. This year, we are really trying to focus on economic development areas because we know that growth is coming and coming rapidly, and we want to make sure and accommodate that as well. So we have a ton of data and maps that we publish for our membership in making those decisions. This is just one. We're going back to 2019. We identified areas where we have more traffic than we have road to handle them, basically. And then when you fast forward to 2024, some of those improvements have been made, and you can see a lot of improvement. One is on US 60 or James River Freeway, where lanes were added and opened and improvements happening. And then, of course, it's under construction. We're expecting that to open this fall with additional improvements. But I think you'll see us prioritize and continue to prioritize a lot of investment in the freeway system. That's really what keeps us moving. We're pretty proud of our low commute times. We've been monitoring those, of course, since the 90s, and we have about a 22-minute average commute time between our two counties, which has been very steady, up or down maybe half a minute over the last 20 years. And a freeway investment is a big part of that. And obviously, the I-44 that we'll be talking about later is going to, really play a role in keeping our commute times down and our traffic safe. So always we are focused on partnerships. And in years past, we've kept a running total, and we're over $500 million in partnerships between our local communities, our counties, and MoDOT. So most recently, we have obviously focused on I-44, and we've had $3.3 million in local and federal Springfield area allocations that we've invested in I-44, as well as the historic state investment. It's been our top priority for a couple of years now, so we're proud to be able to partner on that. And some of the benefits we're adding include improved pedestrian connections across I-44, and we know that that's been an issue, cutting people off that cannot drive but need to walk. Another partnership, a big partnership, is on the MM corridor, where we're having historic growth, and I'll talk more about that in a minute. But we're putting $5.7 million in local and federally allocated funds on that corridor. Another way that we're partnering is we try to bid our projects. Is very helpful in finding ways to partner and save money between our projects. So when we can bundle those projects and bid those together, we can save a lot of money and time to the traveling public for construction zones too. So there's several examples of that. We implemented an intersection cost share program back in 2015, where we took our federal and our local funds on intersections of local and state-owned roadways to partner on those. We're getting ready. Our last set is under construction and should be finished soon. Really, trying to leverage our dollars in partnerships. We've also recently invested about $2 million in local and federal funds on sidewalks on the MoDOT system. We have just case after case where we have worn paths on the side of a MoDOT road where we see people walking, especially people in wheelchairs, and recognize that that's a concern and have stepped up to assist in building sidewalks where ADA improvements are being made by MoDOT. So we're pretty excited about that. And I, drove down Glenstone this morning and saw a bunch of that completed, and it's very nice, and I'm glad to see people out using it. So back to Highway MM. This is going to be our top legislative priority for the next year. MM is a corridor that's had over 3,000 jobs added in the last 10 years. We're projecting another 2,000 jobs. Just this week, we had an announcement for a Walmart pharmacy distribution center going in next to the Amazon plant on MM. So there's continued evidence of growth. This project is a statewide cost share project where right in the throes of COVID, we had estimated at about $11 million, and it has now grown to $17 million, partially due to inflation, staffing shortages, you name it. It's just been a myriad of issues that have confronted this project, but that doesn't make it any less important to us. So we are seeking another $6 million from really any source possible, to be honest, to try to complete that project to accommodate all the trucks that are coming to these new developments. We have applied 6 times for a federal discretionary grant, and we're not done. We will continue to apply. It's important to bring some of that federal tax dollars home to us. I think that the current administration's priorities have not aligned with this project, but over time, we're hoping that might change. So I think that you guys are aware, one of the things that MoDOT does for us is administer our federal funds. So any of the allocated funds to the Springfield region or St. Louis or Kansas City or really anywhere else in the state have to be administered by MoDOT, and it's outlined that way in the federal law. So, we recognize the issues with obligation and August redistribution, and so we have stepped up to attempt to assist with that. The final numbers aren't in. We believe we will hit 126% of our annual allocation, so we're pretty excited about that. What we've done to do that is we hired a project engineer on staff to manage, coordinate, and monitor projects. So where she can step in and manage the project for a local, she has done. Otherwise, try to coordinate between different entities to find where things are stalling out or what the issue is and what needs to be done. And so I think that's helped tremendously. MoDOT has agreed to train our local public agencies, and so we've done that a couple of times on environmental and right-of-way to try to elevate their understanding of the federal aid process, and they've been really great to help us with that, and it's been very informative. We've added funding to any project that could take extra federal funding. Inflation's been high, so everybody needs an extra dollar here and there, so we've done that. We did a mid-year award for just engineering and environmental projects. So those are projects that we can get obligated quickly, but it also helps get projects ready for future funding. So we were able to spend some money doing that. We're working really hard on enforcing reasonable progress. We've implemented a tiered award system. So if you're not moving your engineering as a local agency forward, you will not be granted construction funds. So if you're not moving those timelines. And we have decided not to fund any right-of-way acquisition with any of the transportation alternative sidewalk trail projects, just because it slows it down. But with all of that, I think we've located just about everything we can do to move projects forward. So what we can't do, we can't control bid prices. We can't control when they're high, and we can't control when they're low. We've had several come in low lately, so that's exciting. But that results in a de-obligation and unspent federal funds, which continues to be a factor in spending down funds. We can't control how long it takes to get through the approval process. MoDOT coordinates for us on our behalf with the federal agencies and state agencies. So it's really outside of our hands. And I am highly convinced after watching this for the past year that they're working very hard at MoDOT to facilitate those projects for us. But again, it's outside of our control what that timeline looks like. We can't control right-of-way negotiations. That is always a hot potato. And any other unforeseen delays. So sometimes we go out to public comment and the public tells us they'd like to see something different, and we'd like to accommodate that. So that results in delays. So there's a lot going on, moving local projects forward. But again, I think we're partnering together and we're doing it as good a job as we can on getting things moving. So another way I think that we can partner is legislative priorities. So I thought, we monitor yours, and I wanted to tell you about ours. On the state side, our number one ask is $6 million for Highway MM from I-44 to 360. That's that cost share project I talked about earlier. That's also going to be, if there are any opportunities for federal earmarks, that will be our ask as well. Continued investment in I-44. We're very excited about the investment from the state this last year, but obviously that's not the whole corridor and there's a lot of work to be done. And so we want to continue to support that effort statewide. We're very interested in new partnership opportunities, maybe a governor's cost share, state funds to partner with local developers and local agencies for economic development opportunities. And of course, increased funding for multimodal. Like I said, we have a lot of places where there are sidewalk and trail needs. And so on the federal side, a lot of those same things, including in streamlining environmental review. I mean, I talked about the time that takes, but we have 4 basic priorities that we of course would appreciate any support on. And that's the first one's allowing MPOs to be direct recipient of federal funds. Like I said, right now, the Department of Transportation are in charge of administering those funds. And we would like to see MPOs be direct administration of that and take some of that burden away from the state DOTs. And I think it would save money for the state DOTs as well. We'd like to see an equitable based funding formula from some of that discretionary funds. We've applied 6 times for MM, and that doesn't even begin to talk about all the other things we've applied for. We've had a few successes, but not a lot, especially because we don't qualify for of it. And so we'd like to see some sort of formula-based program, again, that we would administer. We'd really like to fix the August redistribution problem and the 1-year obligation. We know that it's not just a MoDOT problem, it's our problem. It's a all over the US problem that, you know, we'd really like to see fixed with this next transportation bill. And then we'd like to see decreased local match on some of that local funding, because with all of this historic inflation, that has just driven up the cost on the local side as well. So whatever support, you know, you could provide for those priorities, we would, you know, be willing to. And so then so that's how you can help us directly. You know, we need some help on the carryover funding. Like I said, we were able to obligate 126%, we believe. I would like to ask for Springfield a $5 million carryover be considered. I know that my counterparts in St. Louis and Kansas City need more than that, but I think they will have a proposal for that as well. I would also like to request that any of the cost share projects that dated during COVID be allowed to be revisited because of the historic inflation that was caused by COVID. And the workforce shortages and everything that's going on with that. So that's some areas that we could use some help if possible. And then I wanted to be sure and give you guys an opportunity and ask if there's anything we can help with. I mean, what we think we can do is continue to plan for the growth that the region's experiencing, because that impacts the state roads as well. We can continue to make smarter transportation decisions. We can continue to stay engaged with you. We'll continue to facilitate cooperation and public input. We're going to continue our project management responsibilities to spend those funds faster, and we're going to continue to apply for every discretionary dollar that we can and support your applications where possible. And of course, we support your safety initiatives. You know, we recognize that safety is a problem and a big deal for all of us, and we will continue to support that as well. So in conclusion, I just wanted to thank you, and we wanted to thank you as a region for your partnership. And, you know, we recognize what a top-notch State Department of Transportation we have, and we have the opportunities to really work around the country sometimes and recognize that MoDOT is a leader. And we appreciate that and look forward to continuing that partnership.
Thank you, Sarah. And Matt, thank you. Any question or comments from the commission?
I'll first of all, thank you both for joining us here today. These were both very informative presentations. Very impressed not only with the way the presentations were made, but also the detail. This really helps us. When you talk about partnerships, you talk about, you know, when we hear directly from people in your position in local government, it really helps us with our mission, and it helps us in helping you with what you have going. I can tell you that, you know, I served on an MPO for many years as mayor of St. Louis, and the important work that is done at the local level really does help us tremendously. And it's really good to see that you have a active and very effective MPO here in the Springfield area. I was very pleased to hear about all the positive growth and all that's going on here. As a former elected official, that's very important to the economy. It's also important to the people who live here, who feel good about their community and the growth and what's happening. And that has a lot to do with leadership. So all of you that are in the leadership positions here in Springfield should feel real good about what you're doing. As you know, it's continuing work. And it really does help us with what we're doing at the state level. Your input, your involvement, we have our people on the ground, of course, but having your involvement, input really is helpful to us, and certainly will really help you in your objectives as well. So thank you. This is very informative, and I do appreciate you taking time, and it's really good to see your mayor here as well. We haven't seen each other in a little while, but had a good relationship with him. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Slay.
Good question.
Commissioner Hageman?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just a quick question. I see you look like you do a lot of partnership with the various cities in the region. Looking at this last slide that you had there, how do the counties partner with you? Do they have the resources to help partner in some instances? I didn't see any counties on that, and I just was curious. Various counties have various abilities to participate, and I didn't know if they were a good partner down here as well.
They are. For example, on I-44, $1 million of that partnership money was from Greene County.
Yeah,
So
great.
yes,
Okay.
we have counties participating as well.
Well, and that's great to see that partnership as well. So thank you.
Great. Commissioner Baker?
I would just like to add my thanks to Matt and to Sarah for being here today. We appreciate your time and the presentation. There is a lot of good information. I'm a local person here, and I think I'm familiar with that, but some of the data points we saw today were very informative, and it really tells us of all the great work and exciting things that are happening here in this region. I think, this area for many years has been lauded as a collaborative area. People are willing to work together, public-private partnerships, other types of things that really focus on willingness to come together for the greater good. And nowhere is that more important than in transportation. Whether you're talking about public safety, quality of life, economic prosperity, transportation is critical to all those things. And all the different constituents and stakeholders who come together and are affected by that, the more they can work together, and that's what you're talking about today, the more they can work together, the better. And so we appreciate your suggestions on that regard and your facilitation as well. And so it's been great for us to hear this. We appreciate your being here. We look forward to the great things to come.
Thank you, Commissioner Baker. Ms. Sarah, I've always appreciated your tenacity on things. But I really want to express our appreciation for you guys stepping up and committing that 126% of those project funds for August redistribution. That's a really big deal. You guys listened and you stepped up, and it's very much appreciated. So thank you for what you're doing. Thank you. Thanks. Appreciate it. Go ahead.
Well, I cannot resist the opportunity to present Patrick with a little present from us as
Sure.
well. We're so grateful for your leadership and all the innovation you've brought, and just something to remember us by.
Thank you. Moving on to the MoDOT presentations. Next item is Danica Stovall-Taylor, Assistant State Design Engineer. She will present bids for consideration. The floor is yours.
Thank you. Chairman Boatwright, Commissioners, Interim Director Hassinger. For the August 16, 2024 bid opening, MoDOT received 67 bids on 20 calls. And here are our following recommendations. To award all calls to the lowest responsive bidder, except for call G01 located in the Southwest District, we recommend rejecting call G01 due to excessive bids per section 102.15A of the Missouri Standard Specification of Highway Construction. We recommend the bid from AAD Contracting for call G01 in the Southwest District be declared non-responsive per section 102.2.5 of the Missouri Standard Specification for Highway Construction. Also, we recommend that the commission ratify the emergency project called B05 that was awarded by Eric Schrader on August 13 for the urgent slide repair on Route U in Warren County in the Northeast District. The I-47 Western Gateway Transportation Development District held a bid opening on June 6 for construction of interchange improvements at I-470 and U-High Drive in Jackson County. We recommend the commission concur in the award of this cost-share project. Additionally, the city of Joplin received bids on July 30th for construction of intersection improvements on Business Loop 49 and 15th Street in Jasper County. We recommend the commission concur in the city's award of this cost-share project. And that completes our recommendations for you today.
Any questions, comments?
Mr. Chairman, no, it's a great report, and it's exciting to see these are our first two contracts awarded as part of the Governor's Rural Program. And this is the second year that we've received, the third year.
Third year. Mhm.
Yeah, third year that we've received $100 million in general revenue. So that's great. And also thank you and your team for the great work up in Warren County. You heard me though, didn't you? I don't have to report. That's what I thought. I'm pretty loud mouth. But anyway, the great work up in Warren County on, I believe, U Highway to get that project let and going so quick. So just good work by you and your team. With that, Mr. Chairman, I would move we approve the bid recommendations.
Okay, we have a motion. We have a second. Motion and second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Aye. All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Danica, do you have a budget update for us?
I do. Today awards are for a total of $45.1 million, which is $3.6 million under budget. That leaves a result in state fiscal year 2024 award total to date of $339.7 million, which is a savings of 3.4%, which is $12 million under budget on $351.8 million worth of work.
Great. Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Mr. Chairman, it's also good to see that we're getting a lot of active bidders. You
We
know, there was
are.
a time we were getting one, and a couple of these projects, we had 8, 9, 10 bidders on.
We did,
So
yeah.
that's good, and that's why we're 3% under.
It's
So,
good to see the competition and good to
Very
see the prices easing up some. So both are very positive.
Thank you.
Ed, any comments?
Well, I think I'd just like to, the Route U project, you know, the folks came to the commission meeting and expressed their concern. The amount of effort and the teamwork that had to happen to get this to an emergency award. I talked to Paula Goff, our district engineer, yesterday. They've got stuff on the ground and they're actually digging dirt today.
That's
So
awesome.
by the time you get to Washington next month, we'll have significant progress. And I think it's just important to point out that one of the property owners in that area saw the need to move this project and donated the right of way to do it. And without that, we would be through the process we have to
Right.
go through that would have delayed that. So between our geotech team, our district team, our consultant team that worked on that, it was a total team effort to get that under contract. And
Yeah, no, it's thank you for making that point because and it's not an easy fix either. I mean, to add that layer of complexity on top of all those things, it is impressive to see that out the door and see that fix being put into place. So thank you to the team. Thank you to the landowner for the donation of right of way, and we're excited to get that back up and running. And the number of bids on that particular project, we had 9 or 10 bids on that particular project. So getting it out the door quick was also important. So thank you. Moving on to the next item. It is a non-action item. Ms. Stacy Reese, Southwest District Engineer, will provide an update of her district. Floor is yours.
All right, good morning again. Happy to have you all in Southwest District, so we'll give you a little overview. So Southwest District serves 21 counties and almost 1 million customers that travel across 14,489 lane miles and 1,850 bridges. In addition to the Springfield District Office and the Joplin Regional Office, we have 32 maintenance facilities. We were happy to host 18 interns this summer. Many of them have actually stayed on to continue working through the fall semester with us. And per the slide, we have 4 interns actually accept full-time. I'm happy to report
great.
that is up to 5 now. So we've recently just had another one accept our offer for full-time employment upon their graduation. You heard from Sarah earlier that our district does comprise of a total of 6 planning partners. So 2 representing the urban areas, 4 representing the rural. In the urban, we have the Ozarks Transportation Organization, and then the Joplin Area Transportation Study Organization, also known as JATSO. Our rural partners are the Southwest Missouri Council of Governments, or SIMCOG, Casinger Basin Regional Planning Commission, Harry S. Truman Coordinating Council, and the Northwest Arkansas Regional Planning Commission that comes up a little bit into McDonald County down there. Matt talked a lot about the growth that we're experiencing in our district, so I wanted to highlight that as well. 6 of our counties are in the top 10 of the state in rate growth. By people, 3 of those counties are in the top 10. Those counties are Christian, Greene, and Webster. 6 of our communities are in the top 25 growth by numbers. That's Nixa, Ozark, Republic, Joplin, Rogersville, and Springfield. Together, Greene and Christian counties are about 40% of the Southwest District population. And as Matt mentioned in his presentation, basically the Springfield metro area is the fastest growing in the state when you look at it. So that leads me into permits and developments. We continue to see just that growth translates over into how many permits we issue, whether that's for any a new driveway going in. We continue to see developments come through, new Dollar Generals. We've seen a lot of truck stops too going in, especially at the interchanges along the interstate. A lot of Love's truck stops. All of that translates into additional infrastructure too with those development permits that we have to maintain. Maybe it's just a turn lane here and there, but when you start seeing the numbers in development, it adds up. So year to date, we're at 924 permits. You can see the last 2 years we've averaged over 1,500, so on pace to almost hit that again. And then our development reviews already 65 year to date, and you can just see the increased numbers over the last several years there. In the district, when you look at our 5-year STIP, we have $1.24 billion in 244 projects. 112 of those are bridges to either be replaced or rehabbed, and almost 3,000 lane miles of roadway improvements. Those numbers do include the recently addition of the $100 million statewide. Our portion in the Southwest was $19.7 million, to where we can do an additional 391 lane miles on our rural roads. That builds upon the last couple of years as well, where we had received over $5 million the first year in fiscal 23, and then over $16 million in fiscal 24, and now the almost $20 million. So we've seen a lot of improvement that we've been able to put towards, and are thankful for that general revenue. Some highlights from our operations section. We've talked about, mowing, litter, those customer focus items. As far as litter goes, we have picked up almost 45,000 bags of litter and over 88,000 pounds just this year. Last year, I know we topped out around 68,000 bags of litter as well. Again, costs associated with all of that. Mowing, we've already spent over $3 million with 41,000 labor hours. We're getting ready to start our 3rd round of mowing right now. And then signage over the past year, we've replaced over 10,515 signs as well. As we know, safety is definitely a focus item for MoDOT, top priority. We have actually seen a decrease in fatalities in Southwest District by 21% when you compare it to last year. So we were at 110 this time last year, and we're down to 87. The Show Me Zero campaign, Dade and Hickory counties have had 0 fatalities for year-to-date 2024. And then we actually had a 12-day stretch in our district in February, from February 10th to February 21st, that we had 0 fatalities on our roadways in the district. So Innovations Challenge, it just recently got announced and kicked off for the upcoming season. We have always been proud to participate in it. I was a former district coordinator, so it is dear and near to my heart as well. This past year, we had a couple winners. So we have a partnership with Crowder College in Neosho with their diesel mechanics school. So it gives students some work experience. We take our equipment to them. They work on it free of labor. We just have to pay for the parts. We've actually had a couple from the school also be interns with us as well. So great opportunities there. One of the other innovations was our review comment record sheet. So we have been utilizing this on like our LPA projects, our development projects. It just keeps track of everybody's comments, the whole core team. And then also gives, like a consultant the chance to respond. We capture all that. It's all in one place. So that was another one of our innovation winners as well. So transition into some project slides here right now. The Interstate 44 Corridor Bridge Bundle, that's our current design build project to fix 25 bridges along and near the interstate. 23 of them are done. 2 of them are wrapping up. One of those is at PP&K on I-44 in Greene County, and then Route 39 in Mount Vernon in Lawrence County. And they are like within days of getting done. So we are just about to wrap that one up at a cost of $43.2 million. So next up, we have had a lot of success with those design build bridge bundles. So the Casinger Bridge Bundle is getting ready to kick off. It as well will address 25 poor condition bridges in our area. Majority of those will be on 2-lane rural routes up in Bates, Benton, Cedar, Henry, Hickory, St. Clair, and Vernon counties. We did have an industry meeting back on August 1st to kind of start kicking that one off and getting the interest going. Recently just opened up was our interchange at Route 60 and 125 in Rogersville. It was to replace a signalized intersection there with an interchange. That one just wrapped up for $20.4 million. We got it open right before school started. Rogersville High School set just to the north of this location. A couple new innovative intersection projects that we've been working on is at Route 160 at AA and CC down in Nixon, Christian County. The picture here is actually showing the one at CC. It was to construct a continuous flow intersection. Talking to people, I try to relate it to a diverging diamond interchange. You have to go to the left of traffic for your left turn movement. And then we're going to construct a continuous green T intersection at the AA intersection. And it's basically a 3-leg intersection there, and it modified the signal that was currently there. Next up was a cost share that we had with the city of Neosho. Converted an intersection just east of the interstate there to a dual-lane roundabout. Again, they were seeing a lot of growth, adjacent truck stop that had just came in as well. The Route 86 Long Creek. This is a big project for our district, $66.5 million. Was able to go visit here recently with Congressman Burleson. Visited with some of the workers from the contractor company there as well. They are very close to actually getting the bridge done. They hope to open the new bridge up later this fall, and then they will work to demo the current bridge. They have till September next year to get it down, but they'll be transitioning to work on that. But it replaces the 2-lane structure. If you just stand there, I mean, it's amazing what they've been able to put in there. And then the new structure will also have a 10-foot shared use path on it. Over by Wilson Creek Battlefield, we added a ZZ roundabout. So this is in Greene County as well, but converted a 4-way intersection into a roundabout. Again, 10-foot multi-use path. And OTO actually partnered and expanded on that and continued the trail on in that area as well. So that leads me into some of the general revenue money that we had received for Route 65. So from Buffalo to Warsaw, we got $38 million to put towards that to look at potential passing lanes, intersection improvements, in addition to what we already had programmed in the $13.3 million range. And then I-44, we had over almost $140 million already programmed to start work there. And then some additional money down in the Joplin area to start work on the interstate down there. As noted in other, numbers and stuff, it was $577.5 million of general revenue money That gets split between Springfield and Joplin as shown there on the slide. And I'm happy to report on this one. So got some exciting news that I want to share. We are going to be moving forward with, in the Springfield area, the project we already had planned to go between Route 13 and 65 to add the extra lane, replace the pavement. We're going to go out to bid in December for that one. After that, coming up in 2025, we are going to propose doing a big design build project, 400 to 450 million in range that will pick up the rest of the general revenue money in Springfield and Joplin, and focus on that. That would include the interchange there at 13 and I-44, the interchange at Fidelity, which is exit 18 down towards the Joplin area, some of the additional 6 laning between Main and Range Line down the Joplin area as well. So we're super excited to see that coming next year. And with that, again, thank you again for joining us in the Southwest District. It's always a pleasure to welcome everyone here to share our progress and our accomplishments.
Thank you. Any questions, comments?
Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir.
Yep, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just Stacy, congratulations. Looks like you're doing a lot of great work down here.
Thank you.
It's wonderful. I was particularly taken by the number of signage that you've been able to switch out down here, the resources you've dedicated to that. Do you feel like you're keeping up with the needs for signage by that 10,000 number that you've been replaced? Or do you still think that there's
Still a lot of signs we need to
opportunities.
replace. There's still a lot of opportunity,
Okay.
a lot of signs that we
Yeah.
recognize. We have put a lot of focus on signage to try to get, you drive around and it catches your eye, you see
Yeah,
those are
just
ones that
around the
public
state, I
sees.
think we've seen the signage
Yeah.
degrade,
Mm-hmm.
particularly over the past couple of years. And I didn't know, but it looked like you've been doing a lot of effort.
We've made
in
a
that.
lot of great progress,
That's
but we
great.
still
Yeah, yeah.
continue to put some focus there too.
Yeah, it's a decision we need to help make. It's hard to put money into signage when you need it for the roadways as well,
Absolutely.
but they're both important. Yeah, but thank you. And you know what? It's pretty nice to have the House Budget Chairman and the Senate Appropriation Chairman in your Southwest District down here. That doesn't hurt anything at all. Yeah, thank you for your efforts.
Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Hageman. Any other questions,
No,
comments?
just Stacy, thank you. A lot of going on down here, and you've got a huge district. It's a long way from McDonald County to Henry County, and I appreciate you and your team. And it seems like every time I call you, you handle it just like that. And I just don't want it to go unnoticed. I really do appreciate
I
you
appreciate it.
very much.
Thank you, Commissioner Smith.
Yeah, I'm glad you put the slide on here talking about permits and developments, because 4 years ago, I paid very little attention to this, but with the growth that we're having in this area, that in particular is something that we very well better pay attention to, and it looks like we certainly are. So thank you for putting that slide in. Commissioner Slay.
Yeah, I just thank you for your work. Excellent presentation.
Thank you.
Thank you, Stacy.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Okay, moving on to the next agenda item. It's a non-action item. Preston Kramer, area engineer, will present an update on Ford 44. Preston, the floor is yours, sir.
You can tell I don't usually do this. I just sit on this side of the room. Good morning, Chairman Boatwright, Commissioners, Interim Director. Thank you for the opportunity to provide an update on the Ford 44 environmental study and the next steps our internal MoDOT team and the consultants will be taking as we progress over the next several months. This morning we'll be covering the project. Yes, this morning we'll be covering the project overview and goals, how we gather the public's input on the study, where we are today, and what's coming up next. But first, why study I-44? And actually, given the venue we're in, maybe I didn't need this next slide. But it's estimated that I-44 carries 1.3 billion tons of freight every year at an estimated value of $3.7 billion. I-44 touches 11 counties, helping facilitate 1.2 million jobs. I-44 was built in the 60s. Much of the pavement is in need of rehabilitation, if not straight out rebuilding. There are areas of congestion. There are areas where we have some accident hotspots. And at this point in the study, it does at least appear there is a correlation between accident hotspots and design standards that are not up to date. An overview of the project. It's 252 miles from the Oklahoma state line up to Gray Summit near St. Louis. It was funded by $20 million of general revenue that was appropriated in the 2023 legislative session. And that covers the cost of the study, the public involvement, and the documents that I'll talk about here in these later slides. Now, I do want to take an opportunity to acknowledge some folks. I'm not going to name every name on this slide, but since this got underway early this year, the folks on this slide have been instrumental in the success of the study so far. And I'd also like to take this opportunity to thank the Southwest District, the Central District, and the St. Louis District, because anytime we've needed, these are the core team people. These are the people that are doing I-44 study stuff every day. But in addition to the regular responsibilities, but anytime we've needed another set of eyes on a technical memo or helping set up public meetings or staffing the public meetings, folks from central office and the districts along the corridor, and even a couple of districts not along the corridor, have stepped up and helped out. That's much to be appreciated. Also, I want to recognize that we hired 2 consultants for this. HG Consult, Buddy Desai is with us today, and Garver. We split the corridor into 2 sections. HG Consult is hiring the west end. Garver is on the east side. We're about halfway through the first phase of the study. So goals are what we're going to do here. So a little bit of background. There was a high-level purpose and need study in 2008. One of the things we're having the consultants do is validate correct or update the outcomes from the 08 study. But the 08 study, that's been 16 years ago. It called out inadequate capacity, safety concerns, interchanges with operational issues, increasing freight traffic in portions of current design standards. Of course, none of that has changed significantly. But in addition to validating, correcting, or updating the outcomes from the 08 study, they're also bringing in all of the data that we've been able to provide from any study that's been done since that time. Most notably, the 2018 predictive analytics study that Laurel led, and the 2022 freight study, as additional to a bunch of spot location studies like the flood study at Jerome and Hazel Green along I-44, places that we have occasional flooding that shuts down the interstate for a number of days. This is also being supplemented by real-time data that we've been able to provide regarding congestion, accident history, pavement conditions, bridge conditions, areas where we've got work planned or work underway. So the consultants are taking all of this information and compiling it. But what's the end goal? What is it we're looking to get? Oh, thank you. So what's the end goal of this study? Or what are we wanting to get? I'm going to talk more about public involvement here in a bit. This is the part I'm excited about. So, so by this time next spring, or not this time, by next spring, by the end of the study, we're going to have a document in front of us that's going to have a purpose and need clearly defined for the entire corridor. In addition, we'll have purpose and need defined for the segments, and this is important. So the 252 miles, we're going to break it down into bite-sized pieces as part of the study. This piece is similar. This piece is similar. This could be a standalone project. This could be a standalone project. There are common needs and for needed improvements within this section. So by the end of this study, we're going to have it broken up into bite-sized pieces. We're going to have a purpose and need defined clearly for the entire corridor, in addition to the individual segments within the corridor that identify the needs specifically within that segment. And probably most importantly, we're going to have it prioritized. So I don't know how many segments we're necessarily going to break it up to, maybe 12. But we're going to be able to take a look at accident history, resiliency, current and projected congestion, freight bottlenecks, among other factors. And we'll be able to come to senior management and to our elected officials and say, based on this data and based on the input from the public, this is the number one prioritized segment, whatever that segment might be. It might be 44 and 50 up in Franklin County. I don't know it yet, but these are the segments. This is the number one prioritized segment. If we fix this segment, we can reduce the number of fatalities by X number a year. This is the second prioritized segment. And then that will ensure educated future decision-making as funding becomes available for those additional segments. So we wanted to engage the public as part of this study because data only tells part of the story. So there was a number of ways that we engaged the public to date, and that will continue. But we wanted to hear their concerns and get their input as to where growth is occurring and anything else. And we heard some interesting things. So the first thing we did was we had two stakeholder meetings back in May. We had two, one for the west half of the corridor and one for the east half of the corridor. Now, this was facilitated by our consultants. It was virtual, and we invited all of our MPOs, RPCs, counties, and cities to attend those meetings. And they were held in the evenings because a lot of our elected officials have daytime jobs. So, and what we heard back from them was their top priorities was safety, congestion, and freight traffic in those order. Now, in addition to our stakeholder meetings, we also had 5 public meetings in person. We had one in Joplin, one in Springfield, one in Lebanon, one in Raleigh, one in St. Clair, kind of spread out along the corridor evenly. And we had between 30 and 40 people at each meeting. You would have thought perhaps the Joplin and Springfield meetings would have been more heavily attended, but they were popular across the entire state. So, and likewise, and these were staffed by folks from our consultants as well as MoDOT staff. And it was like myself, I attended to, Greg Chapman down here attended to. I don't know that we had anyone from the team at all 5, but good questions at all of these. In addition to the stakeholder meetings and the public meetings, we also had an online public comment period. You see there, we received over 1,500 comments from the public between online, in person, and the stakeholder meetings. It shows to show you that I-44 is important to the people of Missouri. But so we surveyed all of the people, whether they attended in person or attended virtually. And likewise, if you remember from the stakeholder slide, our customers, like our stakeholders and like MoDOT, emphasize safety as the number one priority for the I-44 corridor, followed by congestion and freight traffic in that order. Now, in regards to environmental concerns, this was another comment or another question we asked the stakeholders as well as anyone that attended meetings virtually or in person. Wildlife, waterways, and historic Route 66 in that order. And of course, historic Route 66 is important because it parallels I-44 and actually overlaps it in some areas. Now, these are an example of a couple of displays. Our consultants put together some displays that showed areas of geometric deficiencies where things are not up to today's standards, where they created heat maps that showed our accident hotspots along the corridor, congestion, and they did several statewide maps as well as county-specific maps. And the county-specific maps were very popular, and you could tell what meeting you're at by what county maps the people were congregating around. This is Joplin and Springfield. This is pretty representative of the attendance and the participation we had at all the meetings. And I don't think I mentioned this enough. All of this information is available on our website. and we're keeping it up to date. And it's just been updated recently with some of the additional revenue that came available for I-44. So what comes next? I mentioned we're about halfway through phase one of the study. Later this month, we're anticipating getting a draft purpose and need document from the two consultants. I mentioned document. We're getting, even though there's two consultants working on this project, they're working together to provide us with one document. We're going to do another quarterly or another stakeholder meeting sometime this late fall, early spring, prioritizing those segments, like I mentioned. And then in the spring, we'll have a final document that will have the corridor segmentized into bite-sized pieces and prioritized. So we can share that information with senior management, the commission, and elected officials for, if an opportunity exists for additional funding. And with that, I will take any questions.
Thank you, Preston. Any questions, comments from the commission?
I'd just like to make a comment. Thank you for your work and the presentation. Very, very thorough and informative. It's certainly a very, very important connection between one side of our state and the other, I-44. And the impact it has on our communities is tremendous. So this is important work. And the work that you do is very, very important. It's for me, I'm sitting here. I remember when before 44 existed. I remember when there wasn't a 44. And when they were building it, I got to ride my bicycle on the I-44 before, as a young boy, before the traffic came through. But certainly an important thoroughfare, and it certainly needs the work. But thank you for your and your team's leadership and work on this.
Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Slay. Commissioner Hageman.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I want to make a short comment again. You know, we're looking at this great opportunity to do this work on this. And I feel compelled once again to thank the legislature for their efforts to do this. Judge, thank you for supporting that. And on behalf of the legislature, please take our appreciation back that we're able to do this. Much of this work on I-44 wouldn't be moving ahead if the legislature hadn't gotten engaged with general revenue money.
Absolutely.
So again, thank you very much.
Yeah. Thank you, Commissioner Hageman. That's a great point. Director?
So I just want to highlight the leadership team, Preston, Greg Chapman, Melissa Shefferly. They've done a fabulous job of putting this together in really short order. And the legislature was very forward-looking to put the money aside to do this on the heels of I-70. I think that's just really forward-looking. One of the questions that kind of comes up is, well, you're doing the study, but, we just announced we're doing all this work in Springfield and Joplin. How does that go together? And I think it's pretty important to note that a lot of the preliminary environmental work for those pieces had been done previously. And so we can move forward with those, but certainly the study that Preston is working on will kind of set the playbook for what we do on the heels of that, and
right.
Give kind of the playbook going forward, and give, specific improvements, cost estimates, and hopefully we'll set the stage for future investment.
Yeah, thank you for making that point, Director. Any other comments? Preston, thank you.
Thank you.
Moving on to the next agenda item. It's a non-action item. Jerica Holtzclaw will give us a update on multimodal operations.
Okay, good morning, Mr.
Yeah.
Chairman, Commissioners, Interim Director Hessinger. I'm Jerica Holtzclaw, the Director of the Multimodal Operations Division. And today I'm going to give you an update of what we do in the Multimodal Operations Division, and just an update also on our larger railroad project. Okay. So the multimodal division is actually kind of referred to as the non-highway modes division, and it's made up of 4 modes of transportation, which you can see there on the screen. It's aviation, transit, waterways with freight, and railroads. So the unique thing about managing these modes at MoDOT is we do not own any of these facilities. So we don't own airports or railroads or transit buses. The division works with cities and counties and regional authorities or owners of these facilities to plan improvements for these modes of transportation. And our role really is to administer their funding and provide oversight for these improvements. So today I'm going to walk through each of these modes of transportation and really talk through the funding that they receive on an annual basis. Wanted to point out, over the past 5 years, we have received increase in federal funds related to the pandemic, particularly in aviation and transit. Last year also, we received 7 new staff members, 4 in transit and 3 in rail. And just recently, the legislature had approved 3 new staff members for our aviation section. So we're very appreciative of those new staff members. That brings our total to 40 in the division for the number of employees. So I'm going to show you a chart on the next page of why we were super thankful for those new employees. So on the right column there, you can see the sharp increase, if you just focus on that totals column, of the funds that's managed in the division. This slide was actually shown to you all by the Director of Transportation Planning, Lance Taylor, when he provided the update to the STIP just a couple months ago. So it really is just focusing on that sharp increase. So I also wanted to point out something about our funding. The multimodal funds do not hit the state road fund. Our funds, the division gets, is strictly for those non-highway modes of transportation. And we do have to go to the legislature each session to get those funds appropriated or reappropriated each year. Even for our federal funds, those are subject to reappropriation every single year. So that's a little bit a unique thing about the multimodal division. So let's start with aviation. Missouri does have 120 public use airports. 106 of those are eligible for federal or state funds. 30 are only eligible for the state funds, and 76 are federally funded airports. We do have 9 that are large enough in the state that they're direct recipients from the FAA for their federal funds, such as the Springfield Airport here, the Kansas City International, Lambert, just for some examples. And the projects in our aviation world do use an asset management approach and are required to prioritize from the runway center line and out. So typical projects you'll see in aviation are pavement maintenance, full runway reconstruction, and upgrades to lighting system, those types of projects. So it's kind of hard to get a hangar if your pavement's in bad shape because they do use an asset management approach. So on the funding side, we do have 10 federal funding programs that we're managing along with our airports and the airports consultants. The dollar amount we get each year does fluctuate, some on that federal side, but for FY25, the number sits at $98 million for all federal funds combined. And on the state side, we're very fortunate in Missouri to have a dedicated state revenue stream for airports from the Aviation Trust Fund. So these funds are generated from a jet fuel sales tax proceeds. And these funds are generally used really for those 30 airports that you're seeing up there on the screen. They're state funded only because they don't get federal funds. It also is used to support the staff in the division. Again, remember, we don't own airports. The aviation staff serve in a project management role and oversee projects from planning, environmental, land acquisition, through construction, often working closely with the airport's consultants. And our staff does also conduct safety inspections at all public use airports, and that has to be done, a formal inspection once every 3 years at those public airports. One other unique thing about our section in multimodal is we do employ the MoDOT Chief Pilot, which is Captain Chuck Wilson, who's in the room today. I wanted to publicly thank Chuck today, take a minute to thank him for his mentorship, for mentoring other pilots, specifically at the Missouri Department of Conservation. So thank you, Chuck, for passing on your wealth of knowledge. Thank you. And Chuck does have over 28,000 hours of flying, so pretty thankful to have him on Team MoDOT. So thank you, Chuck.
Yeah, Jericho, you know that is Chillicothe, Chuck.
Okay, so we'll move on to transit. MoDOT's transit section provides financial and technical assistance to over 150 providers around the state. Transit has had a rise in federal funds from the pandemic and had struggled with securing those transit vehicles due to the supply chain shortages, which we've all heard about. But this has really gotten a little bit better as some vehicles are starting to arrive and we're kind of flushing out that backlog of our vehicle orders. Transit in Missouri does deliver over 32 million trips and does have a significant economic impact on our state, as some Missourians rely heavily on public transportation. And every county in Missouri has some form of transit within it. So moving on to their funding, on the state funding side, they get $5 million of what's called MTAP, which is the Missouri Elderly Handicapped Transportation Assistance Program. This supports operating expenses for these providers. They also get $6 million in capital assistance for some of those same providers that are in MTAP for a match for vehicles. They also get nearly $12 million for state transit assistance, and this is operating for those state public providers. On the federal funding side, there are 5 transit programs that total nearly $90 million for the transit programs combined. Our next mode is waterways with freight. The freight and waterways section also provide the technical and financial assistance to develop and operate Missouri's ports, where we currently have 19 ports. Missouri also has over 1,000 miles of navigable rivers and 2 public ferries. The freight and waterway section manages mainly state funds with an exception of a very small federal ferry boat program. Again, MoDOT does not own ports. They're owned by the port authorities themselves. So on the state side, the ports typically get around $800,000 for admin cost and a little over $11 million of general revenue for capital improvement projects. We also have what's called the Freight Enhancement Program. It's another state-funded program. It's a little under $2 million per year, and it's for capital improvements. So ports, so you're probably wondering, why is the $96 million on there? So ports do have several projects that received funds from last year's legislative session. So those legislative designated dollars actually do run through MoDOT through our division. So that's why it's set at $96 million for FY25. Some of those were reappropriated funds from previous years, but that's the total for FY25. Okay, and our last mode is railroads. So the rail section is actually split into a couple different sides here. We have the railroad operations section, where we have 7 federally certified inspectors in charge of rail safety by providing those federal and state safety inspections. The team also manages the Amtrak operations for the state of Missouri, where we have the Missouri River Runner that runs between Kansas City and St. Louis. The rail section also provides the federally required state safety oversight for that light rail transit systems in Missouri, which is Bi-State or Metrolink in St. Louis, Kansas City Streetcar, and the Delmar Loop Trolley. And on the project side, we manage railroad crossing safety improvement projects and provide coordination with the railroad companies and for the MoDOT Road and Bridge program. So for funding, for passenger rail, we typically get anywhere between $14 to $16 million for operating funds for the Missouri River Runner, and for state safety oversight, a little over $600,000 per year annually. And on the project side, each year we get approximately $1.5 million of state funds from the grade crossing safety account. And those funds are generated by a 25-cent motor vehicle registration and renewal fees. Plus we get $6 million of federal funds. And that's really to focus on rail safety. So in total, about $7.5 million for us to focus on railroad safety. But new last year was $50 million of the GR funds, general revenue, to focus on rail safety, in addition to the normal that we get, the $7.5 million. So on a routine basis, we're typically getting a $6.5 million of federal funds in total for rail, but that doesn't count any like federal grants that we're getting. That's our routine funds. And for FY25, we're setting at $74 million for state funds for railroads. So now I want to take just a minute to highlight the rail crossing safety and where we're at in this area. I did just mention we get $7.5 million on a routine basis to focus on rail safety. So kind of put that in perspective, we do have over 3,300 public crossings in the state, with 1,422 of them being passive. And that means none of the active warning devices. What you see there on the screen is like those active lights and gates. And 47 of those fall on a line that has passenger rail on them. And to upgrade a single crossing, it's average between $400,000 and $500,000 to install those flashing lights and gates. So that brings us to about a $700 million issue to tackle. So back in FY24 was budget, recognizing this, we put a request into the legislature for that $50 million. It was ultimately passed and then reappropriated for FY25 also. So what are we doing with the $50 million? I kind of want to take a minute here to explain the map and kind of what we're focusing on for that $50 million. So first, we did hire a consultant to study our 3 passenger rail lines in the state, which are depicted by the blue lines on the screen. This was an independent, data-driven analysis with no influence by MoDOT, the local communities, or the railroads to give us recommendations of the safety upgrades for these passenger rail lines. And they are the Southwest Chief. You can see that northern blue line owned by BNSF, the one across the center of the state where the Missouri River Runner, and the underlying company there is Union Pacific. And in the southeast part of the state, the Texas Eagle, and it's also owned by Union Pacific. And those safety recommendations do total just a little under $20 million for the construction work that would take place on those 3 passenger rail lines. We also kind of duplicated that same thing for the green lines on the screen, which was 4 freight lines in the state. We did the same study on those and just recently got the studies back in for those. And that was about $1.5 million for those final study recommendations. We also have created a signing program where locals can come to us and order those advanced warning signs that you see at railroad crossings to upgrade their warning signs. And that program is slated at $3 million. So each year, we also do look at opportunities to apply for federal grants to help leverage these state dollars. And that match is typically 20%. We did put in for a federal grant called the CRISI grant, or the Consolidated Rail Program, with the FRA recently. The rail line that was submitted was the Thayer North line, owned by BNSF, and it's depicted by the red line there on the screen. The state match portion is $15 million. This grant was submitted in May, so we're not going to know till later this fall if we get selected for that. There's also another federal program called the Railroad Crossing Elimination Grant Program, and we're going to put 3 packages of projects in for that later this fall as well. So this, just to give you a picture, we do have a lot of need in the area of rail crossing safety, and we're just trying to get as much done as we can with that $50 million while it's available. So I kind of wanted to walk through the progress we've made so far, because I did present on this once before, because we had this money here. This is our second round of this. So for this piece of the program that focuses on those blue lines, the passenger rail, since we have those final recommendations in hand, we've been out doing the public involvement piece. We've been reaching out to local road authorities and the owners of the railroad companies to solidify the final safety work to take place at each of those locations, and then actually beginning the construction work at those first 47 locations. So really, how many can get improved really depends on, the cooperation and coordination with the local communities and the railroad companies themselves, since they're the owner, they have the underlying ownership of these. So on the Southwest Chief, that top blue line, the progress so far, we have 7 upgrades to flashing lights and gates under contract, and 2 closures in Sheridan County have been fully executed, and work is underway to permanently close Snyder Road in Porch Prairie, and we're going to go out and do a final inspection on that here in the next week or so on those. The River Runner across the middle of the state, this line didn't have as much work anticipated. Most of them were already protected crossings, but we're still in final negotiations on the additional closures with the local entities and the railroad companies on that. And then the Texas Eagle that runs there in the southeast part of the state, we are finalizing design work on approach grades, kind of lessening the slopes that coming up to the railroad crossings at 7 locations. And the other locations where we have those final recommendations for flashing lights and gates or closures, we're still in negotiations with the local communities and the railroad companies. And the green lines, we have those final recommendations in hand now, and we're putting packages of projects together to pursue some federal grants as well for those projects. So that's kind of the progress we've made on the $50 million. Money out the door, we spent about $3 million. We've got $7 million under contract and 16 tied up in these grant applications. So that brings me to the end of the multimodal operations update. Do you have any comments or questions?
Thank you, Jerica. Any
Mr.
comments or
Chairman,
questions? Yes, sir.
Just
Go right
kind of
ahead.
a comment, Jerica, thank you for sharing this and all the important variety of work that your team does. It's great, and we appreciate you all, the way you partner with our communities, our local cities to make this all happen. And multimodal is a very important part of our job, and you do a great job, and we appreciate you very much.
Thank you, Commissioner Smith. I'll pass that on to the team. Thank you.
Please do.
Commissioner Erdman.
Yeah, thank you. A great presentation. As my commission colleagues know, I'm generally recused on this issue, but I haven't surrendered my First Amendment right to talk about how important I think it is. I am very happy that we're focusing on these passenger corridors. I think this is critically important, and I want to applaud the focus on the passenger corridor work to be done there. The thing that would surprise the public is how hard this is. It would seem you identify what you need to do and you just go do it. But it's not so simple. You got to get the buy-in of the local officials, whether they be county or city officials. Then you got to get the railroads to buy in. You got 3 parties that you're dealing with, so it can be more difficult than might first seem obvious. And, thank you for being persistent with those people. Appreciate that. I know the people who benefit from Amtrak service in Missouri appreciate our focus on safety. So, keep pushing. I wanted to also mention, I think Chairman mentioned that we decided to do a public comment on the job description and the director search. And I was impressed by the number of comments that relate to multimodal.
Mhm.
And it reinforced in my mind how this division is important to Missourians. They care about it. They want it to be top of mind, even if it isn't maybe the first thing you think about when you think about MoDOT. And I want to thank those in your division who every day keep it top of mind. Clearly, our constituents feel that way, and so we need to as well.
Thank you for the comments.
Yeah, thank you, Commissioner Erdman. Ed? All good?
Mr.
Jericho?
Chairman.
Yes, Commissioner Hageman, sorry.
Just a quick question, and it really kind of a follow-up. In my time in the Senate, we had appropriated some funds towards the Jeffco Port facility. I was just kind of curious as to how have we proceeded with that? Is that moved forward with vigor, or has it been kind of slowed down
That
by
was the $18 million. Right?
red
Yeah.
tape or anything? Yeah.
Yep. $18 million actually just went out the door last week for
Okay,
that
so
project.
we're
Yes.
beginning to see some.
Correct.
some-
Yep.
I
They've
mean,
got some
it's
movement
great
on the
potential
project.
there, and
Mhm.
certainly the legislators from that area were very supportive of that going
Correct.
through. And it's sometimes
Thank
you
you.
do these things and you never see them come to fruition. So that's
Yep, good
why I
progress.
asked. So great, thank you
Thank
very
you.
much.
Thank you, Commissioner Hageman.
Thank you.
Jericho, thank you. And your team. Okay, moving on to the next item on the agenda is a non-action item. Miss Brandy Baldwin.
Actually, Mr. Chairman, I'm going to start this one.
Okay.
In my role as chief engineer. So I want to kind of lay the groundwork for what Brandy's going to talk about. So if we could go to the next slide. So this is in state statute that the chief engineer is responsible for all of these things, but most importantly is that we develop plans and specifications for construction on the Missouri highway system. So that responsibility lies with me, but there's a whole group of people that are experts in every field of what we do that help to develop this. So every division in our organization has experts that are working on developing specifications for highway construction. And in many cases, they are national experts, and sometimes are really the ones that are leading the national discussion about what kind of specifications we should be using across the country. So the preeminent experts in the field are the ones that are doing this. And then the commission, go to the next one if you could, basically has a commission policy that references the state statute that kind of gives the authority for us to go forward to do this. So I just wanted to highlight that. And really what our specifications do is they make sure that the projects we build are built safely while they're being built, and the actual product we produce. They make sure that we get quality and value for the investment that we make here through our commission process. And really they level the playing field for those that are going to propose on our projects. So everybody knows what the basis is of how we're going to go forward to get those quality and safe projects. And really it's kind of Missouri's warranty. We don't ask a contractor to provide us a 30-year warranty. We tell them we want you to build this to the specifications so that Missourians get the value for the investment that we're making. So just in general, that's the state specification. I just wanted to bring this. I pulled this off the shelf. We don't print a spec book anymore, but we do it electronically. But this is the state spec that it was last done in printed format. So it's a pretty substantial document that dictates the construction of the state highway system. And so the specific topic we're going to talk about today is one of those specifications that we're working on. So Brandy, if you could take it from here.
Good morning, Chairman. Good morning, Commissioners, Commissioner Secretary, and Interim Director. Thank you for having me here today. I'm Brandy Baldwin, your State Construction Materials Engineer, and I'm thrilled to be here today to talk a little bit more about how construction materials is here to help improve the quality, just as Ed had mentioned.
Brandy, you may have to move that mic up. I've had the same trouble here this morning.
Let's see if I can manage this. Thank you.
And trust me, if I was doing that, it'd be really comical.
I was pretty close to that. So as interim director has described, as chief engineer, it is his responsibility to ensure that our specifications are up to date. I'm here to paint a little bit more of that picture of what that process looks like. So any of our specifications that need to be updated, there's several different reasons why that may happen. Maybe a simple correction or clarification, an update to a test method, or just monitoring of the continuous changes in our industry. Or as we're here to talk today, an update on a quality standard. So any changes to our policy, be it our standard specifications, our standard plans, or our engineering policy guide, all of those changes flow through our engineering policy services group and design. With each of those major changes, we get involvement with Federal Highway and also our external partners to ensure that we have buy-in on these changes. And prior to each published date of our specification that Mr. Hassinger shared with you, we have an internal review process that takes place to ensure that we have a real good quality update to our policy. And that includes all of our district engineers and our engineering division heads as well, get a say in what that looks like before final approval from our chief engineer. And that QR code at the bottom is provides a little bit more details to that process that's linked to our engineering policy guide. So every engineering division, like I mentioned, has a responsibility to ensure that their policies associated with their division stays up to date. And the way construction materials manages that is by having frequent meetings with our industry partners. Typically, we meet with them quarterly, sometimes less often, sometimes more often. And when we have a special interest of topic, we will meet with them more frequently to work through any of those details to make sure that we are all on the same page and that we remove any potential roadblocks so we can have a smooth ballot process. So we do that prior to this internal review process that I mentioned. Meet with our partners prior to that. So when we do go through that review internally, we're sure we've heard the needs of our partners as well. So currently construction materials is going through that with a spec update to section 1005 over our concrete aggregate section. We started this discussion with our partners back last October, where we set some specific tests in motion that were required to be had, and also introduced a new test method 93. Our partners then gave us a lot of great feedback and also asked for some more transparency on how we determine the eligibility of different pavement types. So we heard them, made some changes, and introduced some further changes to the 1005 spec in May and started additional conversations. We met again in June and in July with any of our industry partners that had interest were invited. We made some further tweaks to the specification, met again with them in August, made some further tweaks again, and now we're set to turn that specification in for that internal review process. Actually, today is the deadline for that, for us to have the specification go into effect the first of the year. So now you may be asking, why do we want to have this ready by the first of the year? And the answer is pretty simple. We have a historic step in front of us. And those of us here delivering it, many of us have been around during those times that it was a little leaner. I want to make sure we're prepared for if those times ever come back, because it's a lot more cost effective for us to spend a little bit more money up front for a better quality product than to work with that unknown of any premature failures that may take place that will impact our asset management plan poorly. So we want to make sure that we're prepared for those times. So now you may be asking, why are we concerned with premature failures? And unfortunately, the following slides are going to paint that picture for you a little bit. Back in 2007, we implemented practical design on the specification to try and stretch our available resources at the time. And unfortunately, some of the impacts of that change we are seeing taking place on our pavements with some premature failures. So any of our pavement designs that we have, we've always had an expectation that they, our concrete pavements, have a life of 25 to 30 years. And when they don't reach the end of that life expectancy, it puts us in a position to have to address those things sooner. So this first picture here, you see a pavement that's 21 years of age, and it's one that is showing some of that distinct decracking caused by the expansive rock that we're trying to address right now. It's kind of hard to see sometimes, but it is prominent here in this picture. Here we're in the Northwest District, where we're seeing some premature failures of a pavement that's only 13 years old. And here we are in the Northeast District with a pavement that's only 5 years old that is also showing signs of that distinct decracking pattern there as well. Here we are in the Northeast District again with a 14-year-old pavement. And this one hits a little close to home for me, because 14 years ago, I was a up-and-coming construction inspector, and I put a lot of blood, sweat, and tears to ensure that these projects were built to our current specifications. And it hurts to see something you put so much into fall to pieces in front of you. And it's in my backyard. My family and I chose to move to this area because of this project. So I get to see it every day. So it's a little bit close to home. Here we have a pavement that's less than a year old that's also starting to show significant signs of failure. Now, granted, in this photo and in some of the others, there are other factors at play, not just the expansive aggregate issue. And we are addressing all of those, but all these things take time. We have limited resources in-house to address all of them. So we're hitting on the one that we think will have the most impact first and hitting others as well. So I promise you, we are working to address all the factors that are at play in these photos. Here we're in St. Louis District with an LPA project. This one is showing the distinct decracking patterns in that photo of a 13-year-old pavement. And here we are back in Kansas City, where we're seeing some significant joint rot of a 15-year-old pavement. We're back in St. Louis with a 20-year-old pavement that's also seeing significant deterioration of the pavement. And back again in the Northeast with another 11-year-old pavement that is showing significant signs of that decracking caused by that expansive rock. And we tried to blow that picture up for you to show a little bit harder. It's hard to see that pattern sometimes, definitely at speed for sure, but wanted to show what that looks like. And like I mentioned, there are other things that our division is working on to help improve the quality of our pavements. We're not just focused on the aggregate. About 4 years ago, we went to work and updated our pavement designs to try and make sure that we're getting the life expectancy out of both of our concrete and asphalt pavements. We're also introducing some new job special provisions and other new specifications to help protect these investments, to ensure that we're sealing our joints and protecting those for the issues you saw with the joint rot and things of that nature. And we're also continuously monitoring our industry changes as well with regards to any new and innovative methods we can use to improve the quality of our pavements, because we feel like in construction materials, that's our responsibility to make sure we are putting forth the best quality specifications and materials to ensure we are protecting the taxpayers' investments of our roadways. So with that, that's the end of my presentation. Do we have any questions?
Thank you, Brandy. Any questions or comments from the commission?
I do.
Commissioner Hageman?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yeah, I appreciate it. This is very interesting to me. Yeah, I mean, I appreciate your efforts on trying to make our product better in the state of Missouri. My question is might perceive that if we change the aggregate, that might take a lot more transportation to bring aggregate up. You know, I'm up there in North Missouri where we've got limestone. It's not the best, you know, product out there probably. It seems like a lot of it's soft and everything. Have we done any cost benefit analysis to show that, you know, that the length of time that we'd get out of this change would be, you know, offset the cost of the additional transportation? Do we have the capacity to do that?
It is a difficult thing to do.
Yeah.
We have run some pretty back of the napkin type calculations based off of some
Sure.
feedback industry provided us with the potential increase to cost of aggregate. And with that, we roughly saw maybe a 10% increase of the overall price of those line items. So if you factor that in,
Okay.
and noticing that we were only getting maybe half of the life or
It-
less of
it-
the
it-
pavements,
Yeah.
you're removing one whole iteration of replacing a pavement at half of its life.
Okay.
So that 10% increase in that line item, and like I said, it's a rough estimate.
We've done a rough estimate on that.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's my only concern really, because I agree we ought to be getting more life out of these roadways. But then again, I also don't want to see diminished ability to stretch our miles of product that we can do in largely North Missouri. And so there is a cost benefit, you know, a calculation ought to be in there. So just roughly you've done that. And I may pursue that a little further, but thank you. I just really, for my own knowledge, I'd like to see that maybe a little tighter, but thank you, honestly, thank you for bringing this. Because, okay, I'm going to share with everybody. First thing I heard from when I went on on this commission was from my good friends in Cameron, Missouri, talking about that Highway 35, Interstate 35 problem, which, you know, looking at this picture, that
There's
seemed
a
to be the
problem.
worst,
Yeah.
the worst problem we had. That. Yeah, we ought to get more longevity out of that, and they all complain about that, and we're addressing it. I understand that, but you're addressing it directly. You know, trying to do something very proactive to get more life out of it. So, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
I'll
you,
let the
Commissioner.
team know as well, because they're
Yeah.
really the ones helping drive the ship.
Thank you, Commissioner Hageman. Any other questions or comments?
Questions, Chairman?
Yes.
I just have a question about, do you have a feel for how this could affect contractors, providers? Will it impact the number of respondents to bid requests in aggregate specifically, or?
We know it will. It has a potential to definitely throw out some sources of material. I mean, frankly, that is the expectation, because as you saw in some of those photos, there are some sources of material that just aren't providing the quality of material we need. But as far as being able to bid on the projects and things like that, we've monitored the impact of each region, and we don't believe we'll see an adverse effect of the number of bidders.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Commissioner Erdman? Okay. So I've got a couple things. So just to touch on this topic, it's my understanding that at one point we had a more stringent specification on this particular topic, and we eased it at times that the program was lighter or thinner to stretch the number of miles that we could impact throughout the state. would you mind touching on that and what the history is there? Because I think that context in itself is something that the two questions that were just asked, that bridge has already been crossed. We knew that at the time, easing that was going to have an impact on cost and also an impact on life. And now we have data to support the impact on life, which seems to be pretty clear that it's a substantial impact on life. You know, me being a nerdy engineer, the back of the napkin comment that you made makes all the sense in the world to me when you start looking at the numbers. There's not an in-depth need to do those calculations because the data itself and the impacts themselves are pretty straightforward. So can you touch on the history of us easing those, this 1005 spec and where we're at today on it?
Yeah, without trying to get too far into the weeds, that like you said, nerdy engineer here too, it's hard to do that. But back in 2007, prior to that date, our expectation for the durability factor of our rock was at 90. Okay, back in 2007 is when we lowered that to 75, and also at that time we were grandfathering in ledges. So essentially, once you're in, you're in. Today, where we've tried to put that back to is at a durability factor of 80, so kind of met them in the middle, and also are requiring an absorption of less than 2%. Now we're waiving and also a requiredness for soundness as well. We're waiving soundness and absorption if they can reach a durability factor of that 90 or above now.
Okay.
Meaning if your rock's very durable, those other factors probably aren't as prevalent or necessary. And we are requiring that those tests be provided on each one of our sources. And the reason for that is the numbers are what the numbers are, right? And that will help us make sure we have that transparency that industry asked for too. So we have a level playing field and show that we are treating everyone equitably.
Sure. And to that point, the data is important to know exactly what we have and what life cycle we're getting out of it, and the changes that we're making, what impacts those are having, are all very important. And being a engineered driven organization, having the data to support those things, as was echoed here, is certainly an important factor of it too. So I personally, with everything that we have going on with the historic funding, the last thing that we want to do is overlook a problem that could 10 years from now put egg on everybody's face, including the industry's face, and the folks in this room that have advocated for this investment that we have. And if there is a problem, addressing it up front is certainly the thing to do. So I know it's not an easy thing to do. You know, easing restrictions or easing specifications are always simple. Tightening them are very difficult. So for you and your team to step up and address this, I know it's not fun. I know that the conversation back and forth has not been fun, but I do appreciate you looking into this and letting the data drive the ship on our decision-making process. So thank you.
Thank you.
Ed, anything that you'd like to add?
Well, I just think probably something to note is, for the last decade, we haven't done a lot of concrete paving. We've been overlaying roads and building bridges. And we're about, like Brandy said, we're about to embark on some of the biggest investments in pavement, not necessarily concrete, but
Pavement.
certainly it will be some that we really need to understand what we're putting into our projects. And some of those easings of specifications we did back in the early 2000s, honestly, we just didn't know. Grandfathering stuff is not a good idea.
Right, sure.
We need to know what we're putting in our pavements so we can have a solid idea. So those changes, and we've worked with industry over the last, 16 months. I think we're to a place where at least informed consent maybe. That everybody knows where we're going here, and Brandy and her team have done a fabulous job of doing that. And our experts in pavement and materials have all worked really hard to get to this point.
Thank you. Brandy, thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Okay, so moving into the public comment period. Members of the public who have not scheduled presentations before the commission may speak to the commission on transportation related issues by signing in at the registration desk by 9:30 a.m. Comments will be limited to 5 minutes per person and 10 minutes per topic. Madam Secretary, do we have anyone signed up for public comment? In this order? Okay. Great. We do have, looks like we have 3 public comments. The first is Brian Dockery. Welcome. Brian, we met last night, so welcome. Glad to have you here. The floor is yours, sir. So Brian is with, he's the VP of Central Stone in Davenport, Iowa. So
That's our corporate headquarters. I'm also VP of Bus and Quarries in the St. Louis region.
Gotcha.
Central Stones, Hannibal, St. Louis, in southeast Missouri. First of all, I'd like to acknowledge MoDOT does a hell of a job.
Thank
You
you.
know, the staff, great people, great environment to work with. But I have to admit, on the issue of the concrete stone, we're going to have to agree that I disagree with you. Basically, if you look at concrete, it's like a cake. You put all these ingredients in it to make it work. In this specific condition, the only thing being addressed at this time is the stone. You saw the pictures up there. I don't question those pavements failed. Why did they fail? One of them, it looked like a subbase to me, was moving around. Another one on the deteriorated joints, if you saw concrete too early after it's been paved, that's the result. That may not have anything in either one of those to do with the stone. Now, I'm not here to say by any means all stone is good. Mother Nature left it in many different ways. Some are good, some are bad. I just wish DOT or the commission would do a forensic investigation on all the components in that concrete, from the stone to the cement, the alkali in the cement. Another current thing with the cement manufacturers to get green credits on carbon is they put a sweetener in after the kiln. What impact is that having on the durability of the concrete? Fly ash, same thing. Has that changed? We need to look at all the ingredients in that recipe before we start dialing this in. It does need to be dialed in. We need to, or we, I'm saying, the state needs to look at base courses. How thick are they? In the lean times, they got narrowed up. Thickness of pavement, they got narrowed up. If you look at the Eisenhower Interstate Network, you made a comment earlier, it started in St. Charles. It did. It was made out of local stone in that area that could get thrown out because concrete is a very complex chemical reaction in it. So without testing all the ingredients to see what the issue is, I think we're making a mistake. Another issue is the Federal Highway Administration put out a AAR fact sheet. So alkaline aggregates reactivity. And in that, it states that they assume some of it was ACR, which alkaline carbonate reactivity, but in fact, the majority of it was ASR, alkali silica reactivity. The state of Missouri doesn't even acknowledge that or test for it. I think that's something the specs should look at because there are ways to mitigate that reaction in pavement through pozzolans or some limestones to put in there. But I think all those ingredients need to be considered before we just start changing the specs on just the coarse aggregate, which by numbers I received from MoDOT will eliminate about 43% of the concrete stone ledges in the state. So if you're going to cut the supply and demand by 43%, it's going to have a drastic impact on cost, not just on concrete. If we have a quarry that we can no longer make concrete stone at, we're not going to make chips at it, because chips are a function of making concrete stone at the same time. So it's going to have increased cost hauling on asphalt projects also, unless a producer member takes and has a higher reduction to get everything down to 3/8 minus, which will have higher energy costs and raise their price. But either way, this will have an impact on the asphalt industry also. I just wish you would consider some of these other things. We all want good concrete, good pavement, because we can't have a strong economy without, well, cheap electricity, which you have no input on, or good transportation, which you control. Thank you.
Thank you, Brian. Appreciate it. Any questions, comments for Brian? Seeing none. Thank you, sir. Appreciate it. Our next public comment is from Dan Klissinger, Executive Director for MLPA. I'm sorry, Client Sword. I can't. Hey, so your handwriting looks about like mine, and so having a little bit of trouble reading it here. But floor is yours, sir. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Chairman, members of the commission, interim director, thank you for having me today. I'm Dan Kleinsorg. I'm the executive director of the Missouri Limestone Producers Association. I have several members in attendance, and you just heard from one of them. Our industry has worked together with MoDOT forever, building quality highways. We have that same goal. I think the Route U issue that was referenced earlier is a great example of working together. On the state's roads and bridges, there's 5 overall concerns that members have articulated to me that they wanted me to share with the commission today. One was the cost estimate. Today was the first time we kind of got an overall cost estimate. Still unsure on that. 2 is there's no hard data on how many sources will be lost. We know that the sources we do have testing data for will lose about half of those. There are many sources we do not have testing data for, and the testing takes time. 3, the responsibility of providing data seems to be placed on industry and not the department. 4, the testing that is required here does take time and will not be complete before the spec is in effect. It takes about 6 months. And 5, there may be factors other than aggregate at work with pavement failings, which you just heard from. These are process issues. We feel the process could work better in the future. Again, the goal is something that we have in common. Quality pavement, quality product for the state and taxpayers. But the process could work a little bit better. For example, if we had been advised of the need for testing materials or testing processes previously, some of those tests would now be complete, and we would be ready for the spec to go live for interstate construction coming up in the coming year. Those are the main issues that my members wanted to share with the commission. I would be glad to answer any questions.
Any questions? Good. Dan, thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Next public comment is from Reverend Richard Cassidy, concerned citizen. Sir, the floor is yours.
Good morning.
Morning, sir.
Appreciate everyone's patience. I know your eyes are glazing over. I've been in many board meetings. I understand you've had a good morning, a very productive morning. Thank you, commissioners. Thank you, Ed, for inviting me and welcoming me in. Gallery, thank you for your attention. So give it a little wiggle. We're almost done. Hang in there with me. This is a grassroots effort. It's about as grassroots as you can get. I have no data for you. I have not much to offer you, just experiences. We live up in north central Missouri along US Highway 36, Buckland, New Cambria communities. Where the hell is that? It's about 180 miles north of here and about maybe a 45-minute drive east. We live along US Highway 36. We're starting conversations about what can we do to improve the Buckland Junction. You may not notice much about it just traveling east and west on 36. It's just a blip in the road, honest. But it's when you try to merge onto the eastbound lane on US Highway 36, you come out of Buckland from the north, cross the westbound lanes, use the crossover and try to head east. Here's the problem. Trucks use this corridor between Kansas City and Chicago. They treat it like an interstate highway, irregardless of all the side roads, gravel roads, access roads. When a truck comes over the hill about 70, 75 mile an hour or plus, you're sitting at the bottom of that hill. You come over a little hill, it's a sharp little drop off, and you're sitting there at the bottom of the hill and you have maybe 3 seconds to keep your foot on the brake to decide whether to pull out or wait. A lot of times there will be two trucks side by side, two cars passing a truck. So it's a crapshoot whether you pull out or not. Very dangerous situation. If the trucks are going 60 miles an hour, you got about 6 to 7 seconds, 550 feet before they cross that crossover at the bottom of the hill. My colleagues and I, Wayne Kitchen and I, he says, I can't sleep any night without worrying about a wreck, a collision, because the thing about it is there are no recorded wrecks. There are no recorded fatalities on the eastbound lane. There are 2 on the westbound lane. We're concerned about the school buses using that because we co-op between Buckland and New Cambria for sports and other activities. So that means New Cambria girls will come to Buckland after school and the Buckland boys will go to New Cambria. And that means that intersection is used multiple times a day. That was our first big concern, let alone all the people who are using that intersection in their cars and their vehicles, grain trucks heading to Quincy, pulling out, trying to decide what to do. My first thought is we need an acceleration lane from that intersection east to the next top of the hill. I'm talking rural language here, folks. To the next top of the hill. That'd give you plenty of room to accelerate, to merge in with traffic. That doesn't even address the sharp pull off the de-acceleration lane, because you actually pull over the hill before you be able to move left. So we've been in this process with talking with MoDOT, sometimes good, sometimes bad, sometimes frustrating about the questions we ask. I've been working on this for over 3 years. 3 years ago, someone said, is lean? I was told there's no money to be had other than just the basic maintenance of the Missouri highway system. I've sat here this morning and just listened to all the presentations. Think about how many times one of these presentations have overlapped in your life, in your experiences, in your daily life. Just what has been presented here in 2 hours. So we started working with Ed Lewis. We had a meeting at the, sounds corny, but we met at the American Legion, had a meeting, called in a representative. And we talked about the tension between the state legislatures and MoDOT, and the challenges that goes on there. All the legislatures I've talked to, they're all on board with it. Yeah, we love to help you out, but our hands are tied. We can't do a thing. All right, let's go up the ladder. I know 3 years ago in the Green Hills Planning Agency, it was on their list, the Buckland Junction, but it didn't seem like it moved very far. So we went to a meeting up at Trenton, listened to Northwest Director Marty Lyles, Eastern Area Director Michael Marriott. Very informative. You're always learning. You're always curious about how does this work? How does this process work? And how can we get our foot in the door? Well, it's in the door a little bit, but we're still questioning about, well, we had a meeting again. We met over at Marceline. 100 local residents got together to discuss what's going on. Am I out or am I just starting? Keep going. All right. So we had a good meeting there, but we invited MoDOT and they said, no, we're not attending. We would have actually moved that meeting date, but we didn't realize until later, talking with Ed, that was the date all the directors got together in Jeff City for their regional planning meeting. But all you hear is, no, we're not attending. Some of our frustration, we need more communication. So we've talked to the local radio stations. We've been the squeaky wheel. We've got on KTVO, on-air television station, been on there 3 times with some of the reports, what's going on. We finally had Ed informed us about here's how the process goes. Very generous in talking with me a couple of weeks ago. It's always helpful meeting eyeball to eyeball. And so we talked about that process. He listened to me, I listened to him, and he described the process. And sure enough, within a few days, Michael Marriott called us, said, we want to sit down with key leaders. Very good. We did. The administration of both school, the Lynn County commissioners, myself, Wayne. Good discussion. Some disagreement points, naturally. We want to hear that give and take. Maybe we should take out the Buckland Junction. You do that and you kill a school, you kill a community, you kill businesses. How do you get into a town if you can't use that crossover? I'm still was hammering on that eastbound acceleration lane till one night I looked at my wife. I'm so mad I could cuss. Have you ever heard a preacher cuss? I was really close that night. I said, I'm giving up on an acceleration lane. I said, let's go for the moon. Let's ask for an overhead bridge, because that really would solve all the problems. Because people coming down over that hill, they're trying to turn left, but if there's westbound traffic, you're sitting there 10 deep on that short deacceleration lane trying to turn north, and you're waiting for the westbound traffic. So you can see the concerns, let alone the schools, the buses that are being used. But how do we move this process forward? Wayne said, we want to be the guys when they see us, they groan and roll their eyes and say, oh, those guys again. Because we know what we want to keep doing. We want to bring awareness to this intersection. There's a lot of truck traffic across Highway 36 between Chicago and Kansas City. And with traffic being diverted from Columbia or I-70 corridor, that means even more trucks are going across US Highway 36. It was never meant to be a US highway interstate. It has a 9-inch bed, whereas I-70, I think it's 17-inch. So our roads are not holding up. It's been there since about 1980, 45 years. Anybody who drives in Lynn County would know if you want to get a smooth ride, pull into the left lane. But you better be aware there's a truck coming behind you about 80 miles an hour. We talked about the J turn lanes. We've got a overhead bridge for the new section of the lane. We've got an overhead bridge that goes underneath the railroad tracks on the eastbound lanes. J turn lane. We've talked about it till we're about blue in the face. The pros, the cons, we've looked at it from the uneducated, not engineer mind, looking about how practical will that be. One of our superintendents from the new Cambridge school said, we've been doing that. Said, what happened? Well, about 6 out of the 8 times you're successful in hitting the second westbound crossover lane. But those 2 times you'll have truck traffic behind you will not let you turn left, because they think, one, you're either passing somebody and you just left your left turn signal on, or you've moved into the left lane because there's a car sitting on the shoulder. And so we've kind of figured out the only really good way is if you go all the way to the Marceline Junction, use their overhead bridge, turn around and go back eastbound. Not good solutions. Not practical ones. I've been in a church. You ever try to move a congregation from one pattern to another? Oh, goodness. So we're trying to do something that is almost impossible. We talked with Marty, and he said, we are a tier 2 unfunded project. I'm not sure exactly what he meant when he said it's under a scope process. What does that mean? Couldn't get an answer. How long have we been on the STIP list? I've been at it 3 years. County commissioner's been on it 3 years. It's beyond our ability to know. We haven't heard. The thing is with MoDOT, they know more than they'll tell you. And I understand that. You can't commit to more than what you can. You can't promise what you can't deliver. But there's sometimes we have questions like, well, how's this process work? Where are we on the STIP list? That's why I gave up on the acceleration lane and said, let's go for a broke.
Sure.
Put in an overhead bridge, make it completely safe. Ed said, or Marty said, how did you come up with that? I said, I was a chaplain on call there's another overlap. I was a chaplain on call that went down to Sheraton County when the Amtrak train derailed.
Sure.
We had a dump truck. 3 deaths. Multiple lawsuits against the against the
I'm not,
truck
I'm not wanting
driver.
to, I'm not wanting to cut you off on the topic
Okay.
at all. I think we get the gist
You
of.
got the point. So that's
we,
what I'm
we
saying.
have the
It's
point.
probably cheaper
So,
that way than
you mentioned that you've been in this process for 3 years.
at least.
The regional planning organization, are you in coordination with them currently?
We've met with the region, not, how would I say this? We know it's in the process. Michael said it's between stage 4 and stage 5 on the list, on the process.
And I'm
list.
assuming that's the unfunded needs list.
Unfunded needs,
So it has made the unfunded needs list.
yes.
Yeah, it's on tier 2 of the unfunded needs list. We're currently out for comment on the current next iteration of an unfunded needs list. And the conversation we had was they need to work with the Regional Planning Commission and the public comment period, which
Yes.
just closed, I think, last week, to move that up. And
Right.
When Marty said it's in the scope, we're starting to do some of the engineering to figure out what the impossible solution is. It's not impossible.
Yeah.
There is a solution. We're starting to work because it's moved up in unfunded needs.
Sure.
To figure out what is the true solution, identify the cost, and then you can start working on how do you get it funded.
Yes.
So it is moving in the process.
So I do have one other question. So 3 years ago, what was the catalyst? Because I may have missed that. What was the catalyst for this to be elevated to a point that, you're certainly passionate on the topic. So what was that catalyst that triggered this?
I was driving a school bus substitute,
Okay,
pulling through that intersection and seeing how dangerous it was.
sure.
So it just became very obvious. There's got to be something to be done in this sharp
course.
hill that is so dangerous. You only have seconds to make a decision.
Got
And
it.
a lot of times there's multiple traffic side by side going through there faster
Sure.
than most people realize.
Yeah, understood. Well, thank you for making the trip. Yeah, Commissioner Erdman.
Yeah.
Hold on a second.
Are you done?
No, go. He's got a question for you. Just a
Yeah,
second.
well, no. Okay, we can take that.
Signature petitions.
Yeah,
out of
thank you.
town of 250 and 450. We have 670
Okay.
signatures on that.
Sure.
Which is a pretty good percentage.
So Reverend Cassidy, thank you for taking the time to come here today. Citizen concern is a legitimate thing that this commission takes very seriously. You've shown that today, but driving all the way down here. And I want to express the commission's appreciation for that. I have seen the video of this intersection. I've seen the television reporting. I've looked at it. I understand what you're talking about. And I understand you understand that it takes a while to move things up the unfunded needs list, particularly if a project gets really expensive. I appreciate the department looking at interim steps that might be taken to at least incrementally increase the safety of when you pop over that hill. Ed, I understand that the department is looking at some things you might be able to do more immediately that would at least provide a little improvement in safety. I hope we're doing that. We certainly want to do what we can, knowing that it takes a while to move up the funding list because there are a lot of competing projects. It takes a while. I've asked that we look for some things that could be done that are at least provide a little bit of incremental safety. And I understand, correct me if I'm wrong, I understand that we are doing that. Is that correct?
Yeah, we're looking at some what I'd call operational solutions, basically interactive flashers that warn mainline motorists that there's a crossing car. We haven't really finalized how that would work, but I know Marty talked to you all about that, I think.
Signage,
this week,
yes. Right.
But we are working on that.
So there was a meeting earlier this week, and the department is being responsive to this citizen-driven concern, and that's the way it should be. You know, that's why you're here today, is to inform the commission. So again, thank you for driving up. We are now aware of this, and we'll stay on top of it.
That's all we can ask, just to be aware of what's going on. We're so low on the radar, we're just, like I said, we're about as basic grassroots and effort as you can find.
You're not low on the radar anymore.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you for making the
your time.
trip. Appreciate it. That is the last of the public comments. So typically at the end of each meeting, we provide commission members the opportunity to share concerns and comments. And today, I'm going to start with our most senior member, Commissioner Smith.
Thank you, sir. I wish you'd quit saying that. I guess I am the oldest. So. But anyway, no, thanks for all the presentations today, Matt, Sarah, always good to see you. Really appreciate the reception last night at the chamber. It's always good to see that group. I always like to come to Springfield. I kind of feel like this is my second home. I like Springfield better than Kansas City. Sorry.
That's okay.
Okay. But anyway, Stacy, great update on the Southwest District, wherever you are. Appreciate that. To these two guys sitting here in front of me, Rich, thank you for your 50 years. You know, that was the year I graduated 50 years ago. So you were just starting your career at MoDOT, and you've had a tremendous career. And I've enjoyed the last 11 years and 4 months of working with you. We haven't always agreed. I remember about a month after I'd been on, you really straightened me out one day. But I lived by it, and I'm fine. And I appreciate that. Patrick, thank you. You know, I was on this commission when we hired you, and only one left here. We had a deal, and you broke the deal.
And apparently you broke his leg because he's on crutches. So I mean,
no, I appreciate everything that you've done. When you come here, we were looking at the what was it, 365 plan, 325 plan, and now to have a step the size of we've done, it's because of you and all these people in this room that have worked hard to make things work, and especially the governor, who's been very, very supportive. And I just wish you the best of luck in the future. We will stay in touch. I promise you that. And I value your friendship. Thank you.
thank you, Commissioner Smith. Commissioner Baker. Since we're in Springfield, I'll have to move over to you next.
Not going in chronological order here. Thank you, Springfield, for hosting us, making us feel so welcome the last day or so. It's been a pleasure and great reports today. Very much appreciated. Nice for me to have a home game, so to speak, too. So thank you. Lots of food for thought. To the two individuals here, so much could be said, but I know we don't have a lot of time. But Rich, congratulations on a fantastic career. What a legacy you are leaving. I've been here in this role for 4 months, so my experience is not as deep, but it's yet impressive. And thank you for your service to MoDOT. Patrick, you are an amazing individual. I think unique is a word that is often overused, but I would say you are unique. Your professional skill set, your energy, and your passion for the work is remarkable. And we are fortunate and blessed to have had you here at MoDOT. And all the best wishes for both of you. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Baker. Commissioner Slay.
It's really great to be back in Springfield. I haven't visited here for a while, but it's a beautiful city. I was very pleased last night to be able to meet with a number of the civic leaders and political leaders and get to know a little bit more about Springfield. As I said, it's been a while since I've been here, and certainly the talent from the MoDOT side here is great as well. And I did enjoy the presentations by MoDOT staff. Always professional, always well done, and really show what MoDOT's all about. So I just want to thank the MoDOT team. And Patrick, of course, and Rich, both tremendous individuals, so talented, and really exude the professionalism that the entire MoDOT team has. And your leadership has been a big part of the success of MoDOT. And thank you for your work, and all the best in the future.
Thank you, Commissioner Slay. Commissioner Hegeman.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yeah, I too appreciate the reception we've received here in Springfield. Always a great city to come down and visit with. And particularly enjoy your mayor. I've known him a long time, and he has served you very well through the years. MoDOT presentation's fantastic. You guys are doing some wonderful stuff here. I really appreciate the continued process improvement that we see here, and the movement that we're getting. I love the partnership with the local governments, with us and the local governments. I love that. It helps us do more for your community. If you're willing to step up and help, get a project done that's that important to you, you got the buy-in. I just love that. And so it's great to see the cities, and as you said, Greene County participate in that project. It's what we're all about. Director McKenna, thank you for your service to the state. It'd been great. Washington, D.C. is going to benefit greatly from your think tank leadership there. You've led the innovation here at the state of Missouri and appreciate it most of the time. But honestly, I have great, since I've come on the commission, I have derived great appreciation for your skill set and what you've done and how you proceed. And Rich, again, thank you for your 50 years of service here to the state. Now that you're retiring, I want you to know that you are welcome to come back to Northwest Missouri and fully retire up there if you'd like to do that. We'd love to have you back. So with that, Mr. Chairman, thank you very much.
Thank you, Commissioner Hageman. Commissioner Erdman.
Yeah, let me echo thanks to the community of Springfield for your time and the reception you gave last night. We started the morning with coffee with your legislative delegation. We've been doing this for a while, and it's great when they hang around. I noticed your mayor and some members of your delegation stayed and listened, and we really appreciate that. It shows the partnership we have with everyone. I want to mention, Rich, when you serve on the commission, the conversations you sometimes have with the general counsel aren't exactly what you look for, or they don't make you particularly happy. But he saves us from ourselves, and certainly that's true of me. I appreciate you kind of alerting me, and even when I didn't want to hear it, kind of telling me the way it needed to be. We benefited from that. I know Terry will continue your strong tradition of that. And we really appreciate your 50 years of service. Thanks for saving me from myself. Let me end by talking about the director, who I do want to take a moment to say a few things about. When he arrived on the scene here, the situation was very different than we find it as he departs. We had an appalling lack of a focus on resources and revenues, and we didn't have the money to take care of the network we had. We didn't have enjoy the support of the public that we've recently gained with the gas tax and other things. The department was in many ways putting Band-Aids on things. Now we fast forward as he departs, and we have this absolutely historic commitment to capital projects that are going to transform the state of Missouri. That's why I said that he's a transformational figure. The public understands that when we say we're going to deliver something, we deliver it. And that's in large part due to his leadership and the credibility he brings. No one can question Patrick McKenna's commitment to safety. Missouri highways are much safer, and Missouri Department of Transportation employees are much safer because of Patrick McKenna. He and I share some things that are in common. Like me, he is an alumnus of the U.S. Senate staff. I know U.S. Senate staffers have a camaraderie, and have enjoyed sharing it with you. But you have brought from the Senate staff a commitment to ethics that I really appreciate and I think is important. And the commitment to ethics that you brought to MoDOT is extremely well appreciated. Now, everyone in the room knows that Patrick has a strong personality. No one is unaware of that. So I want to quote a former St. Louis mayor in thinking about your strong personality. Mayor Vince Shamel used to say, You have to break a few eggs to make an omelet. Thanks for making the omelet.
No doubt.
That's it for me.
Thank you, Commissioner Erdman. Well, with this group, there's not a whole lot left by the time you get back to me. Concerning Rich and his time with the department, 50 years is an incredible feat. So I can't thank you enough for the work that you've done. You served with my grandfather, and that's been a few years back. So, your commitment and your service to the state is certainly commendable. And like Commissioner Erdman pointed out very eloquently, you keep us out of trouble on things. And sometimes those conversations were not comfortable, but thank you for doing it. Director, you're not going to get off the hook that good with me because you're still going to hear me quite often in your new role in DC because, while you are leaving Missouri, your work is not done. And I think the people in this room that know you know that your work is not done. Big things lie ahead. And hopefully the leadership that you have provided here carries on in your role in DC. And also the things that you've learned from here carry on to DC because you have truly had the opportunity to work with a world-class staff here within MoDOT that know how to get work done. And in some parts of the country and some departments in the country, we don't know how to do that anymore. And it's been my 4 years here. It has been a refreshing atmosphere to be around folks that know how to get work done. So thank you for what you've done here in Missouri. You're not off the hook. I'm still going to bug you in your new role in DC. And I know big things lie ahead. So appreciate everything you've done and appreciate the sacrifice. I didn't realize until yesterday that when you moved out that your son was 18 as a senior in high school, your oldest son. And he's got to miss out on some dad time that now all at once you guys are going to be in the same town and get to catch up on. So I wish you the best in that endeavor and anything that you do moving forward. But thank you. Besides that, we had some really good content today. We had some really honest content at the end of the meeting here with some public presentations. All of that dialogue, all of that input is super helpful. Appreciate it. And it really, in the big picture of everything that we have going on in the state with this historic investment, every day is not going to be kumbaya. But, as Commissioner Erdman pointed out, sometimes you have to break some eggs to make an omelet. And, there's going to be some tough times ahead. There's going to be some tough decisions ahead. But I think that everybody in this room is pointed in the same direction for Missouri winning, for Missouri to be a leader in infrastructure, and for us to have the resources and the investment throughout the state that make us prosperous and make us better as Missourians. So I appreciate that, and I appreciate you being here today. I put my documents up here, and I've got a couple other things to say. Our next meeting is set for October the 2nd in Washington, Missouri. And with that, I will entertain a motion to adjourn the meeting.
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. We are adjourned.
You're going to do it when I'm done.